Are we live? Wait,
There we go.
wait.
We're waiting for the delay.
I'm waiting to see if we're on YouTube, and
Yes, we are.
Oh,
it's about a 10-second delay, I think.
There it is.
I wonder if we are.
I'm waiting to see if we're on YouTube.
It's coming through loud and clear on my end.
There we go. We're live. All right.
Hooray!
Cool. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the second Unlucky Tug live stream, whatever the hell this is. With me, I have some glorious friends of mine. First off, we have Nemo at wrdukedog. Say hello, Nemo.
Hello.
And we have Shane at Cheeky ULP.
Howdy.
Then we have Jacob at FlyingPringle.
For me, it is the McChicken.
God, Jacob set the bar so high already.
Off to a flying fucking start.
Oh God.
And then over in the corner, we got the other guy, whatever your name is.
Yeah. You talking to me? You talking to me?
What is your name? Willie?
I don't know. We went on
Wylie,
the Flying Scotsman
William.
together. I ate Alan Pegger's
You did?
ashes. Yeah. I fed you so many of his ashes in your tea that you just forgot what my name is.
I know you
And
from
you
somewhere.
forgot that the entire experience actually ever happened.
I swear to God,
Also,
I've never
someone's
met
got
you
their
guys.
background audio on and I can hear it very crisply. Who is that? Who's got the audio in the background?
Are you just playing the live stream in another
I'm
tab?
not. I've my thing is muted.
Not me. I don't have it open.
Mine's
Bruh.
muted too.
It's not me.
It's you, Nemo, isn't it?
What's up? No,
And it's not. Never mind. It's all,
Oh, it is Wylie.
it was me in the
what
end.
the fuck?
Yep, it's me. I'm the worst. I'll leave.
And
Wylie,
just
you-
choose
Me and my
now?
amazing opinions and Lego creations with me.
Fuck you.
Is it weird I don't hear anything?
Can you what?
No.
Hear us or?
Oh, it is.
I can hear y'all, but I don't hear like anything playing in the background.
Oh no! I just it was me. I turned it off.
Oh, okay.
Found it.
Someone
It's
said
cool.
Damn it, Wylie.
Hi guys. The Unlucky Tug. Wait, no, Jacob,
Someone
you should play the intro music. Of course, this is going to be a classic
Oh, yeah,
Unlucky
yeah.
Tug
Oh, yeah.
review.
It's got to be the Jacob Jarrett version where it's like all distorted.
And then in the middle of it, I'll take an instrumental break where I just start screaming into a pillow.
So if you guys are just joining us,
Just like old times.
hi.
Just like old
This is
times.
going to be just like old times. Nick has got a well written script written out. He's actually got a video ready for all of you. It's an amazing, well made review, just like in the old days. And he's
Yeah,
going to
it's
tell
called
us.
Total Legend
Any
of
minute
Lost
now.
Treasure
And it's
review
30
2.
minutes of me just farting into a microphone. Wonderful.
It's thoughts on Lost Treasure 2. He decided he had to make another one.
Is this a review on the sequel to Lost Treasure 2 that doesn't exist?
No, it's just another review of the same film.
We're just gonna live stream Blubble right now. We're just gonna watch that train wreck from start to finish.
You know what? Yeah.
Well,
fuck
we're not
Railway.
even talking about
We're
Railway
just gonna screen the film, and that's what it's gonna be.
No, wait,
I'm not even
never
gonna talk
mind.
over it.
Never mind. We can't do it unless we get Ricky in here.
Oh yeah. We need Ricky's commentary.
So that pesky railway.
We can't
you know.
we can't stream Boba unless we take hallucinogenics, so that we don't have to pay attention to the film.
Right. Exactly. Or be seriously drunk.
That's it.
Right,
Unfortunately, I am the designated driver.
What is this about? Railway series? What the hell's the railroad stories?
The railway story
Who's
are
Wilbert?
some kids.
Who is he? Because I've spoken to people that lived locally to where he preached in his church, and they're all just like, yeah, it was cool. It was a bit of a nutcase. It was a bit mental. He's a bit of a uptight old man, but you know what? Everyone respected him because of the Thomas stuff, so they just leave him be.
You
Ah,
have
yes,
been blocked.
The good old railroad stories written by a wonderful man named Britt Allcroft.
Once upon a time, in 1989, a man named Brodcroft created Thomas the
Train. That's why she acts the way she does nowadays. She's just so full of life and energy and spirit and inspiration for amazing new stories about trains that talk.
Yeah.
You know, that's the reason why she's so erratic in her actions.
Right.
That's one way to put it.
All right, guys. Well, that was quite an intro. Let's jump into a couple things, and then we'll start talking about the worst railway series story.
Oh boy.
First of all, I just want to apologize for my audio quality. The fucking mic that I bought just for this broke literally today, and now I can't use it.
Wow.
The cable that plugs into the microphone, like the little metal part, like it like broke. It came loose and like it's wobbly now. So when I plug it into the computer, the microphone gets like it has power. The green light comes on, but the computer doesn't recognize it. So I'm just using regular laptop quality right now because I can't go get a fucking cable.
Why'd you break the microphone?
I think we'll live.
Yeah.
So why'd you break the microphone, Nick?
Yeah, Nick, why'd you break it?
Yeah, why
I'm sorry.
I
just feel like so.
We can't trust you with shit, can we?
You can't trust him to keep a
You just
channel
ruin everything you
running
touch.
long enough.
We know what really happened. You got
Do anything.
someone mailed you like a little wood Rebecca, and you just like used the mic to beat it to a pulp.
Shane, stop stalking me. Stop saying exactly.
It was the closest blunt object.
Wait,
It was the only blunt object I had on hand. I'm like, I need to destroy this like instantly. It was like a fight or flight kind of sense thing.
it's like, oh no! How'd this get here?
So apologies for the mics issue. I also wanted to talk about this live stream just in general. When we did this last week, it was sort of like a test if this was something I wanted to do or not. The idea was really I wanted to interact with fans and kind of like go over the whole like why I came back out of fucking nowhere, because I'm sure a lot of people had questions.
It was because Corona.
Right, exactly.
What if we don't want you to come back?
Yeah, fuck, who cares, right?
What if you just go away right now?
You know what? See ya.
You gonna go get Corona? Oh god! Oh god!
Hello,
Quick,
everybody.
take over the
Welcome
channel.
back
Take
to
over the channel.
Taking the reign.
What?
Shaking,
Oh,
shaking.
Hi.
Hey,
Oh.
How's it going?
Oh my gosh, that was like 100 years.
Whoa.
Anyway, so yeah, this live stream. Last week was kind of like a test to see if this was something that I want to do, and I had a lot of fucking fun doing it. And now we're doing it. I would love to make this like a weekly thing and have different people on, and we talk about random fucking shit. So that's what we're doing. We're talking about random fucking shit tonight.
Yeah.
Like and subscribe for your chance to win a spot on the Unlucky Tugs live stream.
Or don't.
Or don't. Yeah.
Yeah, just don't bother.
What? Don't like and subscribe?
Alright.
Everyone should dislike bomb the video. To be honest,
Everyone should just unsubscribe from Nick's channel right now.
Reported for false advertising.
Wylie, don't go into marketing, all right?
he's good at making people listen to what he wants to do.
That's not marketing.
So when we say the worst railway series book or the worst railway series story, is this like Wilbert stuff or can we include Christopher's stuff?
Okay, yeah. Let's jump into that topic.
I was gonna say it's cheating because then it's too easy if we include Christopher's stuff.
Yeah, but it's gonna be obviously gonna be something from that.
So
I like all of them. Sorry, what?
So no, I wanted to like kind of.
But I don't think they count as stories.
They aren't really.
It's just like facts with some like faces on them, you know.
Yeah, you know what he did?
It's facts, but they did a coloring book for it.
Yeah. You know what he did? He just went into a railway magazine, took out an extract, like an actual like news report about an actual accident. He just replaced like an engine's number with Henry or Gordon.
They took a driver's ramblings for today from the Bluebell and made a story out of it.
Yeah.
Next week we have Christopher Audrey on the live stream, and we question why.
Yeah,
Why did you steal?
Why did you steal?
Why did you steal? Yeah.
Like the Chris Audrey boy, I think we're not gonna include the Chris Audrey stories at first, and then we can go into that.
Yeah.
The whole point of this video this main topic was, what's the worst of Audrey's stories?
Give me one short second.
That's a difficult one, honestly.
It's difficult because they're mostly good, and there's a lot of bland stories, but there's few outright awful stories.
So, what is the worst story then?
Right. Okay. Well, I feel like the missing coach is obviously a contender for one of the worst Wilbert stories, just based on how confusing it is. That seems to be a go-to for quite a lot of people. That's option A, it seems.
I completely agree. I think the missing coach is absolutely the worst one.
It's so confusing. Like, I think we sat around for like an hour, like last year, just like talking about like how the fuck it even works. Like, we're like, or maybe it wasn't with, maybe it was with me, Wylie, and Rob. I don't know if anyone else is actually here. I don't fucking remember. But like I remember just sitting around being like, okay, so how does this work? What's like the story behind this? What's like, we couldn't figure it out. We were there for like an hour, and we were like, oh my god, it doesn't make any sense. It's just like, it's just ridiculous. Like, and then try putting that into the show. You know what I mean? It's just like it doesn't make.
You know, the missing coach is a bad story when you read the story, it doesn't make sense, and then when you read an explanation of the story, it still doesn't make sense. That's when you know you've written a terrible story.
Let's try and sum up. What was the goal of the story? What was Donald and Douglas's like ultimate plan in that?
Ooh, can I have this one?
Yeah. Go.
Okay, so because like I think y'all probably said while I was away, probably not, but like we've talked about this a lot, and every time you go through, it's just more and more head scratching. Like I think we've talked about this privately, like what is it, probably about 3 times already.
Yeah, we've discussed this a lot.
and every time we just come to the same conclusion. It's like, what the f? Like in the story, obviously the goal was, Douglas was the stowaway. Donald was the one that was supposed to be in the yard. So they thought. So I guess the engines thought, oh, we'll switch tenders so that you get in trouble and I don't. That way, Douglas isn't getting in trouble and risking being sent away.
But see, that's where I have the problem.
That's where it falls apart.
The ultimate goal was to not have one be sent away because they didn't want to be separated. If they switch the blame on the other twin, then that's the one that gets in trouble and gets sent away, and they get split up regardless. So like, it doesn't work.
It's also like another problem is they forget to switch jobs in the story. I guess that was Audrey's intention to be the loophole, but in the grand scheme of things, the Fat Controller still thinks he's blaming Donald. But then it gets messier because they forgot to switch, and that's how he catches on that ugly be Donald. It just gets more and more convoluted.
The thing is, the story up to that point, like the thing of the Wild of the Northwest, the thing with Douglas forgetting to put the coach away, that's fine. It's literally just that ending bit where you get the tender swapping thing. That's where it all falls apart.
It's like the last paragraphs.
Yeah.
Yeah, why do they switch tenders? They don't have names on, so I don't understand why they needed to switch tenders at all.
What was the goal they were going for? What did Donald and Douglas think was going to happen? Like, one gets in trouble, the other one gets in trouble. Okay, the other one gets sent away, or the other one, it doesn't really add up.
It should have been like if they really wanted this plan to work, they should have got like Duck involved and somehow they pinned the blame on him. You know what I mean? Like, and then
that'd be funny.
Then why would you simplify it? They're just like pinning their blame on like the one engine who's nice to them. It's like.
Well, I mean, maybe Duck goes in on the plan with them. I have no idea. Like, you could write it in a different way.
There's a lot of ways it could go.
But that's the thing. That's why it's the worst one. Not just because of how convoluted it is, but even if Audrey had an idea, he didn't adequately explain it. He didn't adequately explain it in his children's book.
No. Is that something that's ever been made clear? Like, what was, because obviously he wrote the stories as like, segments of a sort of a larger story. What was like Audrey's like actual intention with the story? Like, what did he want to achieve? What was the end goal for this story? Where did he want the characters to be that was different to where they were in the beginning of the story? Like, what was his intention?
I was gonna say, because the way they did it in the TV show, where they just skip over it, it makes like no difference at the end of the day.
Yeah.
It's like it's inconsequential. It's just confusing, but then it's like it just doesn't make any difference because in the show it just plays out perfectly fine. You know.
Here's what I think. I think his intention was their first quote-unquote incident story would have both of them get in trouble, which is supported by him scolding them at the beginning of Breakfan in the book. And then Breakfan would have each of them getting in trouble again, once again, evening how many times they've gotten in trouble.
Yeah,
and by the and by the time you get to Deputation, they've proven their worth.
I think that was the idea. Like in what do you call it? There's like a few lines attesting to that. You get in actually in Breakfan you get two. You get like after Donald's accident with the signal box, you get the Pack Controller going, "Oh, I plan to send Douglas away and keep you, but now after this accident, I don't know what to do." And then after the accident of the Breakfan, he's like, "I have no idea what to do." So that whole idea of like tallying up, like balancing out, like the sins of each one kind of adds up. But again, it kind of gets messed up because missing coach happens before any of that gets established, and or she doesn't really explain it or make it evident.
Yeah, for sure.
That reminds me of another minor funny point, is that because they cut out the missing coach, they forget the show doesn't even have that plot point that Douglas was supposed to be sent away, right?
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
But then you get to season 3, and when they adapt Escape, they add that to the beginning where Douglas is like, "Don't mention that word."
Makes me wheels wobble. It's
did they mention they were going to get scrapped in like the season 2 episode? Was that even mentioned?
No.
It's hard to say.
No. It's like implied, I guess.
I think it's just like they just say in the beginning of Breakfan, two engines came when only one was meant to, and it just never.
No, wait. Isn't it mentioned in Deputation, the episode?
I don't know if scrapping is mentioned. It does get mentioned that they will get sent. One will get sent away, or both will get sent away, but scrapping specifically isn't.
I think a lot of kids in chat are saying it's mentioned in Deputation.
Is it? Oh, okay.
It is an interesting story though, because it still does have like elements of very sort of Wilbert Audrey like essence. Like it's got the the Henry and Gordon sort of being scolded by the twins. That's a nice sort of element. But it's also I really like that element of like they do the Scottish twins are sort of established as these like they're fairly mature engines for like in comparison to the rest of the others. But even their sort of mature and sort of so-called sneaky, well thought out plan couldn't get past the Fat Controller. Like he's still like authoritative enough, but he's also still smart enough to sort of figure out and just sort of instantly switch around and turn around and be like, "Oh, I know it was you. You've done a switch." Like those sort of little moments still sort of keep the story from just being a completely jumbled up mess. Like that I remember reading on the books when I was younger, and I remember reading that, and I remember that sticking out to me more than the actual plot of the story because I just didn't get it. He
turns on his heel, because I don't think Wilbert could write boring like character interactions if he tried. I think it's just inherently charming whenever he writes a story, no matter what, even if it doesn't make any goddamn sense. Like Missing Coach, it's still gonna be.
We should iterate when we say Missing Coach is the worst Audrey story. It by no means is bad. It's not a bad story. It's just confusing.
No. It just doesn't make any sense. Like it's fun, I guess, if you don't think about it.
See, I think it's fun, but it's definitely the worst story in terms of like an actual coherent story for structure.
But I think there's definitely more stories that are just like dull.
Yeah.
That just don't have much going on.
I agree.
That's the thing. They're definitely more dull stories, but
objectively, like they're probably more of a solid story.
Yeah.
Where you can get from point A to point B to point C and get the whole thing. Otherwise, unlike Missing Coach, it's like
I definitely think that there are worse stories in terms of like excitement or drama. You know, like I always look at like Thomas and the Guard as like one of the most boring stories ever. I think Missing Coach is vastly more interesting than that one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But Thomas and the Guard at least makes sense.
You know, Nick, you know the funny thing when you say Thomas and the Guard? I was thinking about that book. First, I was going to say Tank Engine Thomas again is one of the worst books because it's just Thomas on his own. But then I realized, no, all the other 3 stories are really good in there. It's just that first story that I really don't like.
Yeah, same. It's just a bland, nothing story.
It's a very lackluster start.
One, I guess, but
it does really depend on how we want to define the word worst. I feel like we'd all have to sort of come to the. We'd probably have to discuss which stories, because like I mean, see people are talking in the chat about Bluebells of England, and people are saying, you know, other stories are just like boring. You know, are we saying that like, because like Wild Missing Coach is confusing as fuck? Are we saying that it's still are we still saying it's better than others just because it, even though it is extremely confusing, it's got those elements of, you know, Wilbert's wonder and his charm, and like it's got, you know, it's more interesting to think about than other stories.
You could tell that Audrey was trying.
Oh yeah, for sure. It was definitely inspired.
You mentioned, was it Bluebells of England? You mentioned as like being mentioned as like one of the worst ones, right?
Some people talking in the chat about Bluebells of England.
Here's the thing with that.
That was a story.
That's the bit. That's exactly my point. The thing with the Railway series is, I feel like a lot of the individual stories are not really so much stories as they're like chapters in a book. Like you've got like the book is akin to like a small novel, and each of the 4 stories is like a chapter. So Bluebells of England, on its own, it's not that interesting, but it kind of sets up the scene about it, establishes Stepney, it establishes the backdrop for the whole book, and arguably the whole second half of the Railway series. It talks about, you know, like engines being scrapped, engines being withdrawn, how much of a state the other railways in. So I think in that sense it is important. It just doesn't work as an individual story. It's
like a chapter. It sets up the book. That was the whole point of like Bluebells in England, was to talk about like the state of railways in England and like what the Bluebell really is and who Stepney is. That was just the whole point of that. Hello Twins, kind of the same way. That's not really a story either. It just introduces the twins and like the situation.
So I'll say with Hello Twins, I'll defend that because
it's not called Meet the Twins.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. But yeah, no, the character interactions in Hello Twins are. I'll always say that's just a good story. So just because of that beginning bit with the big engines, or even it's like utterly bewildering defect control. Like that is a good story. It's not much actually happens, but the character interactions elevate it.
For sure.
That's what makes it fun, because it's always, Audrey already said it himself, like the engines all have personalities, and when you put that together, it's basically a bunch of like crazy kids just going back and forth on each other because of the hierarchy established within the sheds.
Yeah.
Like you have Gordon, who's pretty much the head hen, and then like his 2 honchos next to him are going to be Henry and James, and everyone else is kind of like just the contrast to that.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Like that just makes it so much more fun. Like they say, just that hierarchy, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Since we're on the topic of the missing coach, there's another baffling element of the story that just I just can't wrap my head around it. And I'm just, you know what? I'm going to share my screen to make this a little bit more visually interesting.
Oh boy.
What the fuck is the deal with the Thomas special coach? Can someone explain this to me?
What? No. Sorry. Why does Annie? First of all, why are Annie and Clarabelle different shapes? Even if they're trying to draw like a curve.
I think it's because they're on a curve.
Do you know what Annie looks like? Annie looks like if any of you have ever been to Southend, there's a great pier, and there's a railway that runs along that pier. That Annie looks like one of the coaches from that pier. That's some small, squatted, square, oblong-looking thing.
It's like they only had like one of each set of like the Hornby and Bachman coaches. So like Annie is like the Hornby one and Bachman's like the third one.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, can
what's
we just
the special coach? Oxford Rails.
Talking about bad like illustrations from the Railway series. I feel like we could be here for hours talking about that.
I mean, I didn't mean visually what's wrong.
We're not going to disrespect John T. Kenny. Not tonight. We are not going to be disrespecting John T. Kenny tonight.
No, that's
There's nothing negative to say about Timothy Kenny.
You're right.
He's good.
Controversial opinion, or maybe it's not. John T. Kenny was the best Railway Series illustrator.
where's the lie?
I love Edwards. I love
The best,
Edwards.
man.
I
He's
think
second.
Edwards
He's like,
makes like these really amazing cinematic looking paintings, but John T. Kenny is Thomas the Train. You know what I mean?
he kind of like, what do you call it? The Edwards kind of subvert like the classic Railway Series look. Kenny defined it. Kenny defined like what's like the classic like Thomas, the classic
Absolutely.
Thursday. Like they're both really good. I think it's like if Edwards was like a 10 out of 10 for me, Kenny would be like a 9.8 or 9.9. Like it's that close for me.
I love Kenny, but I'll always place Edwards above them. I love the more realistic takes that he did on the characters.
I mean, I guess objectively, Edwards is more realistic like painter and artist. But goddamn, like, dude, the John T. Kenny stuff just looks so fun. Like the people and like it's just like the people and the faces are so expressive, and it's like a lot of the really great faces from the show came out of the John T. Kenny era. Like I think like the Troublesome Truck faces, all the narrow gauge engine faces, like all those, like the open mouth smiles and like the the angry teeth faces. Those all came from John T. Kenny. So
that's true.
Yeah.
Very good point.
It's funny you mention that because I noticed like the other day, Sir Handel's nose definitely comes from the Dalby era, and I was like, huh.
I guess it makes it more distinctive, but the expressions themselves are definitely based on the Kenny. But I do like that he has like the pointy nose, like in Dalby.
Guys, I don't know what you're talking about. I feel like Middleton is the best illustrator of them all.
Oh yes.
Oh right, yeah.
We got a round of applause for Clive SpongeBob.
Clive Pong. Spring Pong.
Man, Clive SpongeBob makes the best art, man. Absolutely.
He is.
I definitely agree with.
By the way, I'm
like,
legally
the
blind,
more
so
realistic drawings definitely bring light to it. It was sort of like they were taking sort of the original Dolby illustrations and they just sort of with detail and just much more life and character. Because some of the
Thank you, Nemo.
We don't need this. Please.
We need to see the best illustration in the entire Railway Series. I just want everyone to see this.
There's a lot of red flags in this image.
I hate this fucking picture.
Why does Gordon look like that?
Look at the absolute lack of the Scullery Railway. This is Coffin's Gate.
It's like they've tried to do like perspective drawing as well in it, but it still looks awful.
How does he not understand perspective? How did he fuck that up?
Aren't like his normal drawings a lot more with it?
How do I highlight a comment?
Gavna?
You can't. I'm not sure actually. What comment did you want to highlight?
The one that says poop.
One?
Yeah! I have the humor of a 5-year-old. This is so funny. Yeah, someone said, "Oh, he's gonna highlight poop." You're right.
Wait, what?
Yay!
Oh,
I derailed the conversation. Yay!
Okay, let's
we're talking about Clive SpongeBob.
Let's get back on topic. Okay, going back to Tom was the special coach. All right, visually, I don't have a problem with this. That went off topic. How does this work? The special coach. It's fucking confusing to me. Like so I get it. It's supposed to be a coach off Gordon's Express. Gordon doesn't stop at Knapford. He goes all the way to Tidmouth. The coach is taken off at Tidmouth and put on like the bay platform. Thomas comes up from the junction to get the coach, and then he goes back to Knapford and then travels on his way. It's for people that like want to travel on Thomas's branch line that are coming from the main line.
Yeah.
I first of all, I don't know. I'm a little confused by that. Does this not travel on every journey? Is it only like that one journey at the beginning of the day or something? Or how does this work?
It's a special service.
Yeah.
It's just an exchange to keep going.
I think it's based off stuff like the Atlantic Coast Express, like in the UK. Like you had expresses going to like from London to like the south or west of England, and they would start in like London Waterloo, and they would go to like maybe like 6 or 7 different destinations. It'd be an express, and they drop off coaches at like different stations. and like you say, they'll be put on like a branch line train and taken off to wherever, basically. So it's like it wouldn't be on every single train. I think it would just be it'll be just like once a day or so, maybe.
Yeah, probably a few times a week or something.
Yeah.
Okay, well that makes sense. But now here's my next question: how the fuck does this work if Thomas is a push pull?
That's the thing. I'd be like, oh, he pulled it out of his ass later on.
he pushes and pulls it, of course.
But like the whole point is like Clarabelle has the windows on the side of her face. She has those because Thomas is a push pull, he reverses down the line, and like the driver is in Clarabelle. That's the whole point. If there's a coach in front of her, how does that work?
It doesn't.
You're right.
So none of this works.
Do they have to shunt the coach around? Doesn't that defeat the whole purpose to have to shunt the coach around to?
Yeah, that's the whole point of a push pull. So,
it's incompatible.
Hold on, me buckos. I'm gonna eat a chicken burger. I'll be right back.
Please eat it directly into the microphone. I'm sure we'd all love to hear it.
Good idea. Everyone would love to hear like food ASMR.
Now, what if Thomas had the special coach attached in front of him?
What if Thomas ate a chicken burger? What if Thomas had a chicken burger?
I think it would go straight into his firebox and just burn to a crisp. And
this is a non-answerable Thomas and Friends inquiry.
No, it is. Nick, can this be a discussion about what kind of organs engines have?
Where's Vic Paul when you need him?
I have a perfect image I want to share for that. Actually, okay. I think you know exactly what picture I'm going to pull up. You know.
Oh no! How does cows feel about Thomas eating a burger in front of them?
Nick, I think I have a really good idea for a video series you should make about questions that can't be answered involving Thomas the Train.
Oh.
Yeah. Let's answer some of the unanswerable Thomas questions.
What the hell is an unanswerable Thomas question? Where'd you pull that term out from?
Yep, there you go.
I just want to point something out here. Henry's eyes are bloodshot. Does that mean that engines have blood?
Oh.
Yeah.
Percy blushed when a woman who had recently married in her wedding dress stood up on the footplate of a dirty engine in a dirty docks in a brand spanking bright white wedding dress and decided to kiss the smokebox door of a live steam engine. And then the face of this steam engine supposedly blushed red. And I'm surprised her face didn't melt from the extreme heat on the smokebox door.
Her lips come off on the train.
So that's how, that's how trains have blood. They consume it from people from unsuspecting.
If I was in the hospital, let's say that I'm blood type O, right? Let's say I'm in the hospital and I'm dying. Could I get a blood transplant from a train?
Depends on what blood type they are.
Yeah. You have to have the right blood type.
What blood type is Henry?
He's type 0. How do you test
A0?
How do you do it? Do you like
is he an A0?
Like pull it out, or
stick a needle in his cheek and extract it?
Black 5. That's his type.
Well, like like when you do for a blood test, you get the thing stuck in your vein, like where blood pumps. Where does blood pump on an engine?
You just stuck it in the eye.
I bet they wouldn't even feel it. Their eyes are like the size.
Also, I just want to add something real quick before I actually go eat. You could probably fit your head inside Henry's nostril. Just saying.
You could fit you could fit a fist.
So
you're probably right.
So Jacob, what you're saying
you could hide stuff in there.
Jacob, what you're saying is if there's an engine named Arnold, and you can basically say, "Snort me, Arnold."
Snort me. I'll be right back.
Do you guys remember?
What a note to go out on. You guys are
right. This is one of the odd things that comes to Thomas that no one also talks about. People are always like, "Oh yeah, like the faces are so big that like you could fit your hand in there. Like the trains could bite your head off." We forget that like because the faces and consequently their mouths are so big, when they talk, they wouldn't talk with a regular tone. Their tone would be extremely low. Like it'd be so booming and loud and low it would be horrifying to listen to. Like if someone actually wants to do the science and figure out like what an engine would sound like or what a thing would sound like if its mouth were that big, please find out, because I want to make a super accurate rendition.
Is an engine's mouth full of soot and coal? Like, do they sneeze ashes?
Yeah, that's why you have to clean out the smoke box each day.
I want to point out this beautiful image of this truck that could easily just bite this guy's head off at any moment.
It's about to.
What if? Wait! What if when the couplings break, couldn't the teeth just like bite onto the chain? Hold on for dear life.
That's how troublesome trucks break away. They nibble at the chains like a little squirrel.
It'd be like Jacob with his braces.
So like, what happens if like Annie eats you? Do you just fall into like the first class passenger seat?
I wonder that. Like Claire, like Henrietta, for instance, her face is like where the door was, right?
Yeah.
Like if you go through her mouth, like in the coach.
What if you took the truck, right? And let's say, and it was like you took like pieces of the truck apart, and you fed the pieces of the truck to the truck. Where would the pieces go? Would it just disappear until you start taking the face apart, and you just the face to the face, the face just implodes.
It just plops on the floorboards.
Wait. Someone mentioned about Annie. If she's a push-pull, what if someone's driving her from the push-pull compartment? That's right behind the face. What does that person see? What are they standing in?
Well, obviously we have to presume that like the faces on engines aren't like, you know, some sort of like, you know, just the face to some weird creature. It seems that like the premise is usually always the face is just the face, and the face usually just ends where the face ends. Like there isn't any like organs or anything behind them. It's usually just like, because you have like the trucks which are open baggers, so just behind the faces is like the planks, and then just like the load of whatever the truck's carrying. Toby's the same case where he's like just wood, and then the smoke box.
Well, the faces are so big that they can hold all the organs necessary to commit bodily function.
That must be it. Because they have lungs. Thomas said he was joking in that one Christopher book.
I feel so bad.
I'm back because there's actually not burgers. I was just being told that burgers were going to be made.
Can we get an F in the chat for Jacob's burgers?
F. Everyone do an F.
Burgers, but there was no burger.
F for the burgers.
That's incredibly sad. I'm very sad.
I feel so bad for the people in the chat who have already missed the bulk of the missing coach discussion.
What would?
People in the chat typing up at once. Oh my god.
What would my breath? No. Someone's just made a really good point. What would an engine's breath smell like? Hang on.
Probably like a firebox.
Stop posting F, guys. I need to highlight this question.
Yeah, I think Nemo's most qualified to answer this.
Yeah, it would just be like ash and char.
How do I like? What do I do? How do I drag the comments so it's like a highlighted thing?
I think Nick has to do that.
I don't know how to figure that out yet, unfortunately.
No, wait, like Jacob did it earlier. Like, what do you do? What?
Oh, I did that.
You did? Oh, okay. What would an engine's breath smell like by Pegasus?
Depends on their diet.
28.
Okay, I'm looking for it.
It was like 1:41 a.m. If that helps.
That doesn't help me. It's like 5:30 here.
The thing is, I'm looking right at it, and I know I can see it, but it doesn't matter. What would it smell like?
Oh, here we. All right.
It would be
smell
just
like
ash and
shit.
char. Yeah, well, yeah, that too.
I mean, I imagine it would just smell like whatever the trains usually smell like, anyways, like just steam and coal and soot. Depends on the quality of coal, you know.
So if it's like soot and stuff, doesn't that mean like their teeth get covered in soot? Does someone like brush their teeth?
I saw that in the comments. Someone said, "Oh, how do engines have white teeth? Do they have? Does a crew perform dental work on them, or do they have a designated dentist?" Some guy just asked.
Like at the end of the day, when they're wiping down the engines with like the brooms and the rags and stuff, they just brush their teeth.
I think so. Yeah.
Maybe it's
Sorry, go on.
Maybe it's like in the Railway Series quote unquote universe, like the quality of an engine's and rolling stock teeth is indicative of the overall quality of the railway. The better their teeth are taken care of, the higher rated the railway. Oh, the controller has a dental plan for these engines. This must be a pretty well kept, maintained railway.
This gum until your breath smells nice.
And they got a massive block of gum that's like a size of
Steven, Soda Railway Modeler just messaged me. He said, "No lie, the J Class 611 smoke sells like blueberry vape smoke." So there you go.
There you go.
On their diet.
They use charcoal toothpaste. Ah, very clever.
That brings up another question. Remember in Duke the Lost Engine, like you could see number 2, and it looked like he had like a Cuban cigar in his mouth.
Oh god, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Can do engines like smoke? Can they vape?
Nemo, you have worked very closely with steam engines in the past, and I feel like you were probably the most qualified here to talk about designs of engines and how they work, etc., etc., especially British steam engines. So, Nemo, what I am proposing is this. Is it possible to take the funnel of a steam engine and or take just the smoke box as a whole? So you've got the smoke box door on the front, and then you've got like the funnel at the top. Is there any way that you could rebuild the smoke box design so that the funnel was actually on the front of the engine, like sticking out, pointing forward as like a so mouth, and then you just had like a smoke box door, wherever else, like maybe on the top or something? So basically, every time the train would be in steam and would blow steam, it would just be like a massive wide open mouth on the front of it going put, like that.
Are you thinking like the rocket?
Yeah. No.
Yeah,
well,
sort of.
The thing is with that,
the rocket just has a snorkel and it's pointing up.
Basically how like engines work is from the cylinders you have like a exhaust pipe inside the smoke box, like we call it a blast pipe, like the way exhaust steam goes through the cylinders, goes upwards through the smoke box, and then it just seems natural to have the chimney go upwards. You could do like a rocket kind of thing where you have it go out the front, like you probably could. I don't know why you do it, but
and you can put a face on it, obviously.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, it's funny you say that because the funnel essentially is the mouth. The funnel is part of instrumental part of how the engine builds, emits air, how it exhausts works, how it generates steam. So it is, and we use some people use mouths and lungs to breathe. So it is kind of analogous to the mouth.
I think a lot of like ambiguity about because obviously people are always like, how do the trains work? How do the faces work? Are they real or whatever? I feel like a canon that Audrey could have really played into, and I think he sort of touched on it, that he probably might have actually, because he talks about it a lot in interviews and stuff, is this idea that trains are really only alive and talk when they're in steam. And in that way, I feel like that is like a potential that that would also answer a lot of questions, because obviously when the train isn't in steam, first of all, you can clean its smoke box out because there's no face there. And second of all, when it's in steam, you can't look inside the steam engine, because if you did, you'd make it explode or something, and the minute it sort of doesn't work, it effectively quote unquote dies and the face would disappear. I reckon.
I guess that's why you open the smoke box door, right? Because there's no face.
You're technically right. That's a very good point. I love the idea because it feeds into the whole idea of the steam engines alive because of the steam. So they're of course sentient only when they only get the face when they're in steam. But you can open a smoke box door. You do often, usually when you do empty the smoke box out, they are still in steam. At least when I've done it.
Yeah, I guess then you've got to be like, at what point does it lose the face? At how do you define being in steam and not being in steam? And
also, there's that Henry story as well. The one Nick put up a picture from before Henry was in steam when it was in that story. They explicitly say Henry's smoke box door gets opened out.
Well, that was Clive's Sponge Robert. We don't count the.
Oh yes, it's not. Yeah.
Well, he didn't even have the balls to like draw it himself.
All right, Jacob. Here's a curveball for you. Then, what about the scrap engines and bluebells of England?
Oh, good question.
That's
just in general. When they're just at the sheds talking at night, they're not in steam then.
Well, that whole hypothesis is just thrown out the window. Does that mean that when Duke was sleeping in his shed, like 1 second passed?
Yeah, he's just
like to him,
He's
1
like-
second passed.
Yeah.
It makes
Like
sense why it's so
they
calm,
take him
though.
out of steam. 50 years pass, and then he wakes up and he's like, "Can I go back to sleep for 5 more minutes?" You know, it's like
He's like,
I'm sure he didn't even notice.
he's like, who's the president?
Like
Rock?
for example, if you like took an engine out of steam in like 1912, and then in like 2020 you like steam it up again. Imagine like blinking and then like there's like skyscrapers and fucking flying cars and stuff. That'd be ridiculous.
This illustration is probably the most interesting because what it seems to imply is that like the engines have their faces, even if they're in a complete terrible state of, you know, disrepair, they're horrible, you know, like the one on the left has got obviously the grey face, but you can see it's very sort of brown and ruined and stuff. But the one on the right, I don't know if this sort of looks like it was an intentional choice on my behalf, like where it's at the point where it's so close to the end of its life that the face is almost just like disappearing. And it's like the moment that the engine is like is past that like point, it just that's it. It's done.
I just
That's
assumed
it,
it was
over.
like super rusty and like the face was like somehow like a metal and was also rusty and like lost its color. Like I guess I never really thought about it, but yeah, I'm not sure what's going on.
Something up.
Oh,
Can you see the engine in the background with the boiler in the background being hoisted up on the crane?
Yes.
I have an answer to that. I have an interesting.
no, we don't talk about this image. We don't talk about this.
Not canon. Not canon.
No, I think it's all very much.
We were serious.
We don't talk
moment.
about this. We don't talk about this.
What how much of an engine has to be removed before like it's not sentient anymore? Like in that picture you just linked him, like the boiler was completely separate from the frames and everything,
I
but
mean,
it was still alive.
Yeah,
The boiler
It's
could
just happy.
steam.
No,
It could,
Nemo,
it
what-
could steam in that state, right? It could steam just as a boiler.
But like, what if the boiler is like completely ruined, like one of the scrapped engines here? These engines can't steam. Like,
It'd be like having a collapsed lung.
Been there, done that.
Nemo,
Unfortunately.
what were you going to say about the smoke box in the background? Because I actually think you could be leading onto an interesting point that I'm thinking of as well.
No,
that was it. That was his point.
No,
Oh, no,
I
I
just wanted to bring that up, really.
Oh, I was going to say because like you've got the engine in the background and the one that's behind the engine that's just about to be cut up, and the one that's up on the crane. The faces, I don't know, they are just like completely void black, and it almost looks like a cutout or like a correction.
Yeah, I like Jacob's point, actually.
Do you reckon like the original drawing was drawn with something there, and then Audrey was just like, you can't do that, and then he just filled it in with black?
He might have thought about it. He might have. I bet he considered it at some point to think, would they have faces on? Would those engines in the background have faces?
Right.
I like Jacob's point though about the boiler being like, you can steam a boiler just on its own. You don't need the rest of the engine. You know, you've got like Smudger, who was just a stationary boiler, stealing steam, so he could still have the face because that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
okay, so how does that translate to like Diesel's or Birdie the Bus, who doesn't have a boiler?
That's the thing. It's like how you're getting into different territory there. What makes a diesel engine alive, and what makes an electric? Or what makes a road
Diesels are
vehicle
powered by
alive?
pure hate.
What makes Skiff the railboat alive?
We don't talk about that.
Now, I've been holding off an answer for a little bit, and I think maybe Jacob and Wylie like it. I don't know about Nick and Nemo, but you know, I think I know what makes a steam engine stay alive. It's the gold dust.
It's the power of
Shut the
love.
fuck up. Sorry.
Again, Brett Allcroft was an absolute genius who came up with the railway series. Someone's put can Skiff drown.
Nick, I sent
I
you a
mean,
message.
can he? I mean, like
No.
he coughs when he like intakes water, so like I guess he could drown, right?
But then, like, what about a submarine? Do they breathe under the water, or are they like a whale? Do they hold their breath? What? Is the Titanic there just like? Ugh?
He's like,
Where would the face on the Titanic go?
Well, the Cars universe has an answer to that, but I don't like that answer all that much.
Wait,
Hey,
is there?
guys! I don't mean to interrupt this, but we have a special guest that's entering the stream.
Oh.
Oh God.
Who's huffing down the tracks? Oh no! Oh no!
And there he is.
There he is.
There's the son of a bitch himself.
It's Mr.
For me,
Thomas
it
Tank
is the
Merck,
McChicken.
owner of Dukes,
Sparkle,
or
sparkle,
Handle,
sparkle.
Rusty, and other friends.
Thomas the Tank Engine and friends.
We're
So
just
what are we talking about here, pals?
Well,
We're talking
for me,
A grain of sand fell out of your trucks. You shall never be pulling coaches ever again.
for me, it is the McChicken.
For me, it is the McChicken. That's really the key here. For me, it is the McChicken.
Ricky, we're talking about how we have to go work on a Saturday.
All the way to work.
You're talking about driving all the way to work on a Saturday. All the way to work.
Now, Ricky, I feel like you're probably the most qualified to tell us. Now, since we have all grown up watching the classic television show starring Thomas and his friends, can you indeed confirm whether or not the props used in the show are alive or not?
Well,
Is this why you keep the engines and characters in glass cases so you cannot hear their screams?
well, they were alive when we got.
They were alive.
It was loud.
I have a more
I was
important
trying
question.
to sleep, and they were making noise, so we had to put them down.
So how do you do it? Like, would you use a pillow? Do you use a syringe? Do you use a gun?
Usually we just take the face off. The faces come off. We put it under a pillow for about I don't know, maybe 1 to 5 minutes.
Right, that's how it works.
All right, but
This actually brings up a very good question. So, if like vehicles in the Thomas universe can be alive, like anything can be alive, a fucking railboat can be alive. Does that mean like a model train could also be alive?
Yeah, like where's the qualification for what's a vehicle of transport?
Here's a question: like Skiff, right?
Why does it
Remember
have to
in
be
Lost Treasure, he's kind of like drowning, almost not drowning, but like you could tell he obviously doesn't want his face to be under the water. So what if his face is under the water? He doesn't have lungs. What does it matter?
it would just fill up the boat. It would just sink.
Yeah, like
I mean, like all the trucks are made of wood too, and they have faces.
now here's another question: what if they lift some shipwreck out of the water that's been there for 100 years? It's like perfectly preserved. Does it still have the face?
No, we were just saying this. We mentioned the Titanic. Oh, sorry.
Wreck. Like imagine you get one of those you lift one of those perfectly preserved ships out from under the water.
It'd probably be like.
I was going to say, I have the most
submarines.
I have the most pressing
the
question of the
Titanic
night.
have faces. Like, does the Titanic sort of just be like, what the hell's that?
The face
sort of
deteriorate
open
when
side
the face deteriorate like the ship, like you know what I mean? It's like rusting over time,
It's
like
got
with the
rusty
face
tools
like
on it.
deteriorate.
Pig metal or something.
Has it got rusty cools on it?
Is this thing is that toy Boco just as alive as Boco? Is that
Why is Homer Simpson in the corner? Why is there a Simpson in the corner? What is this?
Yeah, what the
Why
hell?
are they all flesh coloured and one of them's just the Simpson?
one of them is
He's sick.
No,
And as usual, Sir Tobin has pointing.
as usual, yeah. Pointing at nothing.
Everyone's shaking. Everyone has Parkinson's here.
Like the fact that he still has like his prop hand.
Oh my gosh, that little girl has the Boco prop.
Tackle her! Get her!
No. She took it from the studio.
You know,
Hey, look
Another
at someone in
question.
the corner doing flash photography. Go
Everyone's
subscribe.
with a baseball bat.
Okay, question.
all right, you have a live steam engine.
Yeah.
Would that be alive in the Thomas universe? It's technically
I
a
think
real steamer.
It's a steam engine. It works on the exact same principles, just a lot
Well, here's
smaller.
another. Rex and Mike and whoever, weren't they originally built from Bassett Loke engines?
Yeah, they were built by a model locomotive manufacturer. So yeah.
So don't they count then? Those are live steam model trains technically, even though they do pull revenue tourist trains.
Yeah.
So what
So every model
Just
train in the
cooler
Thomas
engines.
universe is alive.
So like how the larger engines, like we discussed earlier, have such large mouths that their vocal tone would actually be much lower than what it actually is in the show. Would that make like the faces on like live steam engines and like toys just like fucking like Mickey Mouse? Ha ha! Hello, I am a toy train. Ha ha! Like,
That's made out of a certain.
Hi, folks. We're going around. We're gonna go around.
It's me, Rusty. Ha! Please. I want to go out. I want to be on a set. Ha!
But Ricky, I think I have the most pressing question of the night. This is one that a lot of people have been wondering for ages about the I'm going to say about the Rusty prop. I have a really
Ken Thomas driving. Sorry, go on.
Well, it's close. This has been
How long is the handle?
It's been bothering me for a while. All right, how size is he?
I knew it was going to be one of these.
How size is he?
Lewis has it right now. I don't know.
All right. Then I have another question. What time is it?
What time is it? That's the real question. What time is it? I don't know. It's
8:59. Not to be confused with tines.
No, not times.
Or time with an M. I mean,
yeah.
What
time is it? Yeah.
You know what time it is? It's the Sodor Dark Times.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
it certainly is the fucking dark times.
It certainly is the dark times when I saw this on my screen.
Nice.
The way the Queen looks, she's like,
But why does the Queen look so crazy?
Nice.
Why does she look like that?
You know what the Queen looks like?
Prince Charles, right?
The Queen looks like she's going,
Is that why he's actually got a C written on his hat? For
Charles?
Wylie, that's for the Chicago Cubs. He's a baseball fan.
Wait.
Actually, Ricky, that is Cario.
Is he one of the forgotten Mario brothers?
He
When I
is.
just put this into the previous discussion,
Listen, if you look up the Cubs baseball hat, it looks like that.
Is the Thomas toy just another one of those like resized Thomas CGI models where it's just the Thomas CGI model just rescaled down?
Exactly.
My question was related to that.
So much.
Is that alive technically? Is like I'm talking about like Thomas's personality? Could Thomas talk to
it's not accurate to the in-universe. It doesn't have 4 wheels and it has like a dome. It has the cab's too pronounced. It's fake. This can't be real.
Yeah,
it doesn't look
You're right.
Everyone knows Thomas merchandise doesn't look that good.
No.
That's the die pad. That's the die pad.
Someone in the chat's got it right. C stands for Corona.
He's letting everyone know that he has the
That's
virus.
exactly what I'm saying.
And that brings up another question: can the trains get Corona?
I don't think so.
I mean,
that character in the background looks like it has Corona. I don't know what's going on with that guy.
What kind of diseases do trains suffer from?
I don't know. I guess
someone asked that question earlier in the chat, and I didn't really want to address that.
what was that, Nemo?
Someone asked a question, like talking about different kind of diseases, the engines, stuff like. I think someone said that, "Oh, do they suffer from AIDS?" And I was like, "That's a question we don't really need to be."
I don't think we need to.
But it brings it to a more simpler matter. Do they suffer from biological diseases, or more like "quote unquote" problems real engines face?
I think it's
always been mechanical failures, and then they've just been like, what's the word? Like the mechanical failures have just sort of like become like a something for like an engine has a cold is like similar to the engine having like a stuffed up like smoke box or something.
Yeah,
it's like an allegory or something.
Makes me want to bring up something else I was thinking of. We talk about what the funnel is relative to the engine's organs, but where's that lead the safety valve and whistle at?
I don't know. I guess that's like an appendage because you could swap the whistle on an engine like no problem. You know what I mean? It's not like you can just easily take it off and swap it.
I mean, theoretically, you could take anything off an engine.
You could, but the whistle's real easy. Like that happened. That's like wearing a hat. That's like the equivalent of wearing a hat.
It's not substantial like part of the engine. You can just switch it out. It just does nothing as long as you have something on there.
It's a hat that you shoot blood out of to make a high pitched noise.
I guess technically, yeah.
Oh my god.
Thomas is technically sick here. What's
going on here?
Why does he look like that? Why does he look like that?
Is this the television show?
No, Wylie.
No. This has to be someone's trains.
Oh, of course. Right? This is one of the most recent illustrations from the Railway series, of course.
Yeah, it's from Thompson and his friends. This is from Thompson the Swan after the Swan bit him on the nose and they just let him with like an infection.
Yeah, he looks diseased.
How does a train get an infection?
This is a pretty good looking train remake. I don't know who did this.
Yeah, you're right. This is a pretty convincing.
This is a pretty good train remake, man. I would just say that
a little bit off.
The track needs to be scaled a little better. But
if I were the driver if I were the driver in that shot, I'd jump out of the cab. I'd run up to the trees in the background. I think I'd just hang myself. Like I wouldn't want to
agree.
exist in this universe.
Yeah.
I'd also wouldn't want to exist with that mustache, which is ironic coming from me, given the facial hair.
You do have a mustache?
Chat, can we get an F for
Not
Thomas?
anymore. Thomas is drunk. What liquid would a train have to consume to be quote unquote intoxicated?
Well, trains could technically consume liquid, but I don't think they can get. I mean, like they consume water. All locomotives do, but like I think if you put like tequila in the tank, I think it would just explode. I don't think it would have any effect.
I'll try that next time.
They don't have livers. They can't stomach it.
How do you think engines feel about having like breakfast cooked in their firebox?
Ricky, funny you mentioned that. I did hear a story about
What happened?
Shane was saying something. I'll say my thing afterwards.
Wait, what did I do?
Because obviously, like steam engines can have like when they have water, like it doesn't necessarily always have to be the most purified water in the world. At what point does and this is like a legit question. This is outside of Thomas, but at what point can the water just be so uncontaminated that it's just completely not fit for purpose?
What do you mean? Like
obviously, like you can have water that's really shit, still works, but it makes the engine just
Well, it scales the pipes up.
How long could Thomas survive in Flint, Michigan?
Well, lead shouldn't really have any effect on him. It's more like crap in the water that's going to clog up the works.
Wylie, that's actually an astute question because with lead engines, they usually depends on the kind of water supply they get, but you get like hard water and soft water, like water that's got more like impurities and acidic stuff in it. Yeah. When they do that, they have to put water treatment into the water supply. So that is actually something that engines have to do. Like Ricky says, they'll just get like clogged up with like the acidic stuff. It will accumulate around like the boiler and the pipes and cause like wet.
It's so weird talking about the intricacies of how a steam engine works while we're looking at a bright blue, colourful blue tank engine that's so overly saturated with a face. Yeah. And I'm just looking at this face thinking, man, behind that face is like some extremely powerful blower that puffs out like smoke and soot and shit into the air like 100 fucking miles an hour. It makes like a booming sound if you're too close to it.
If Sir Topham Hatt wanted, could he just remove all the faces on the trains and just live a peaceful life for once?
That would probably
they pile them up on a shed like they do in the sheds.
No, go. The Fat Controller put the faces on the trains because he doesn't want to deal with human confrontation. He's confirmed disabled, guys. It's what Wilbert wanted.
Oh my God.
Maybe he could just
makes the entire Railway series the worst Railway series story in the world. Good night.
Right.
Maybe we could catch him just rolling Stepney's face down the platform.
I think Jacob's idea could become a reality.
If Sir Topham Hatt just gets tired of some guy, he's like, let's just take your face off, bud. Oh yeah,
that's what I was thinking.
I love this.
We don't talk about these faces. It's Nicolas Cage.
These purposely off-model faces so they can't get sued.
Yeah, basically.
The Peter Stan face looks like my dad.
Which one? Which Peter Stan face?
The scary one.
What kills me is that one of them is a hat.
Yeah. It's like you were saying that they were trying to avoid getting sued. No, the fourth one along, the Duncan one, that used to have a what do you call it? It had some other kind of hat on it,
like a beret or whatever.
But weren't some of these made while they did have like a license to use the faces?
They never had a license. They were always kind of exempt from Brit or cross-fin because
I think Audrey was just like, yeah, you can do it.
Yeah, they had Audrey's say.
Yeah, I guess if Audrey's saying it, it's like.
Yeah. From what I hear, Brit did come along and say, "Hey, you need to start paying us. You need to start paying us to use our, identity." And they told her to basically F off.
They're like, "No, we got Audrey's word for it. Like, these are based off the books, not your television show. Regards."
But as a result, they can't do anything based on television, so they can't use television show faces. They can't use they couldn't use liveries. I think they've kind of gone a bit closer in recent times.
That sucks. It'd be nice if they could do accurate faces.
Question
I think
is,
they were like,
the
engines don't wear hats on TV. We'll just put a hat on them.
Yeah.
Who's going out of their way to come to the telephone railway every day and check to make sure that they're not using a face that slightly resembles Thomas the Tank Engine, you know?
I'm sure there's some lawyer out there, like if they see like some Thomas face, they'll be like, hey, sue.
And it gets to the point as well, because like didn't like the like Mattel and all that like go or Brittlcoff go out of their way to be like, oh, you can't have the Stepney engine can't exist because it's exactly like Stepney from the show.
Yeah, and then they were like, lady, this existed before the show.
Yeah.
The thing is, I kind of get it from a perspective because I think the thing with rights and copyrights, I'm not an expert, but to actually maintain them, you have to pursue like infringements, don't you? Like to actually withstand when you have to fight any sort of like people who try to copy you, otherwise then everyone can try and copy you. I think it's just someone going a bit too heavy-handed in both cases.
Yeah.
To go back to your point, Wylie, I have you were talking about like all that mechanics happening behind the face. I have a image to share.
Oh, is this the one from the manual thing? That's like
no, it's not. I know exactly what you're talking about, but no, it's it's this.
Oh, okay. First of all, it's already screwed up because they've put the piston block, like in terms of the CGI, Thomas, they've put the piston block like just next to where it supposedly is in the show. Because the piston block in the show is supposed to be that weird little box thing they put at the front underneath the buffer beam.
Yeah.
Even in real life doesn't make sense anyways. This is actually more accurate to what
This is accurate to real engine.
Yeah, I think in the show they just used that little piece that was on the Markland chassis, like that was on the prop, and like, oh, okay, these are the pistons.
Yeah.
Nice.
But to
very misleading.
Go to the next part of this.
Here's and then, this is more confusing.
He's got a fan at the back of his face.
He has a fan behind his face.
So what would his breath smell like?
That's why he's so cool.
Like at any given time, there's like a breeze coming through Diesel's eyeballs.
If he shut his eyes, would his eyelids inflate like balloons?
No, it makes like a farting noise. Like.
Does this mean that Diesel has to constantly talk? Because if he ever stops for a moment, he'd just explode.
I would be evil too if I had a fucking fan behind my eyes.
Probably has massive headaches.
Probably.
I mean, again, headaches, the engines have brains, skulls,
face ache.
What's going on? Where is this?
Is the engine's face made of metal, or is it like some organic material?
That's the question.
It seems in the show they've slightly touched upon it being some sort of rubbery, flexible, organic material that can stretch and move around. But it all just comes down to what are we defining the faces as? What if the faces were,
James got stung by a bee and it got swollen?
Well, right. They have blood.
Because the eyes get bloodshot. When Thomas was sick, his face was red. So they obviously have blood, right?
I guess, but where would it be? The smoke box hinges open, right? So presumably the face hinges open. It's just regular, it's just a train back there, just regular mechanical parts. So where would it be?
I've got an idea. Why don't you open up the James prop and find out?
All you're gonna find in there is a couple of servos.
Well, there you go. There's your answer.
Is that what
all trains have servos?
Yeah, they just have.
The real faces are the friends we made along the way.
Actually, that's the point. Actually, the Midtown story. How they have Thomas events. And one point in the early 2000s, they actually gave it moving eyes, and I believe that actually used electromechanical linkage, servo kind of mechanism in the.
This is the only answer, by the way. They're all their organs are in their faces.
Yeah, Nemo, the Strasbourg Thomas, even the old face had moving eyes that went back and forth. There had to be some kind of servo in there or whatever.
Or didn't they melt? Didn't the original one melt?
Yeah, I think the first one melted, but they made an identical one.
Yeah. Someone said the title of this video is very misleading.
He's not wrong. We talked about missing coach for 20 minutes, and now we're on this.
So how can we talk about the missing coach and the worst Audrey story for 3 hours? This is we're basically just recycling unanswerable Thomas questions. Is there any way we can link the two together?
I mean,
here's an unanswerable Thomas question. Why didn't the story make any goddamn sense?
Here's an unintentional Thomas question. Why weren't Thomas and Percy afraid when they went to the scrapyard?
my fellow Americans, I think the chicken burgers are actually ready now.
Oh my god.
Your chicken burgers.
For me, it is the McChicken.
For me, it's the McChicken. Wait, somebody asked what the worst Chris Audrey story was. What is it?
Oh god.
All of them.
No. But if we had to pick one, I think we would have to narrow it down to the entire book that came out in 1995. I forget what the name is.
Thomas and the Fat Controller's Engines.
Yeah, that was a real boring one.
Yeah.
All those later ones were very boring.
Pop Special is my individual worst story, but
Can you guys see
Oh,
this?
Pop Special? Oh god.
Oh, this.
On that note, I'm gonna go have a burger. I will return.
All right. Get out.
Why are we looking at this new model?
I'm not looking.
Was there anything
I put this up.
putting the face on like flat?
Oh, sorry.
What are you talking about? That's Spencer.
Expensive.
Right.
How's this face work? How's this face work?
It's not even
completely
sitting on the
anonymous
smoke
person in the
box.
chat has asked, what do you think the worst Unlucky Tug review is? From a completely anonymous user who we've never met before.
I think all of them are the worst because
Yeah,
he brainwashed everybody and he's a mean man.
Exactly.
Big users.
He ruined the show.
Can I just say that I hate Norwegian and people from Daneland? I think they're the worst.
Oh yeah,
Oh, definitely.
I hate Danish people.
Hey guys, you guys want to play my favorite game in the world?
What's that?
It's called Guess the Story.
Oh god, I know what this is.
Okay.
What the fuck is the story just by these images?
So all the engines were there for a big gathering, and then the Fat Controller decided to
Isolate James from the crowd.
from the coronavirus. So he told James to run away, and behind him he blew up the tunnel so James could never come back.
And that's how they're self-isolating. That's how they're self-isolating the island.
Exactly.
Now, I'd like to point out that the same image is basically recycled twice in this set of pictures.
No, really. I was going to say, it's not recycled twice, it's recycled three times.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like used like earlier in the book too, or some other book. Yeah.
No, it's used on the cover of the latest book, right?
Yeah.
This is the latest book.
No, it was using Thomas and the Fat Controller's engines. That was
Oh,
the-
okay.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, he doesn't like just trace over it. They're individually drawn, they're different, but they're just the exact same angle of the engines in the exact same places pretty much.
No, do you remember when the original prototype cover came out? Like, it was literally just the image from the older book, and then when it came out for real, it was like a redraw of the same image.
I didn't know that because I couldn't tell because they look the exact same. They look exactly the same.
Yeah.
Like,
Nick, are you
I
going to
think
do
they redrew it for the
a
final
separate
one, but-
thoughts on for every single Railway Series illustration?
Yes.
Yeah,
Every single one.
I
Just the
agree.
whole
Yeah,
like
that's
30-minute
an
video.
idea right there. You could do like an hour-long video on every painting in the entire Railway Series.
Actually, someone's mentioned Pip and Emma and their creepy faces. The interesting thing about theirs is their faces on the actual Intercity 125s. That's like there's like a hatch, and if you open it, there's like a coupling that allows it to couple up to regular, ordinary maintenance trains, so it could be pulled around and stuff. So, like, is that the equivalent of Pip and Emma just like opening their?
That's their
mouth
tongue,
and
Wylie.
being like,
That's their
Yeah, it's a
tongue.
tongue, exactly.
and their tongue just being like, and then
It's not
exactly
just their tongue. Their tongue is a coupler.
No, Ricky, you missed it earlier when I mentioned like there was a shot that like Nick put up that was like Toby and like the coupling and like a truck with its like wide open mouth like looking at it, and we were thinking, what if the coupling broke? Could the truck just like bite onto the chain and just like they pull the
I know
train out?
exactly what picture you're talking about. It's the one from the one in the snow, right? What is that episode?
Toby's
Mavis?
tightrope, yeah.
Toby's tightrope. Yeah.
I have it up.
So could they do this? Could like if that truck like approached like Pip or Emma, could it just like bite their tongue and then just pull
I guess
the
it
train out
could.
there?
What if her tongue breaks off because the coupling is like there's too much weight on the coupling?
She rips the tongue out.
Someone in the chat asked, who does Daisy's makeup?
Here's a good question for
Consider,
everyone. Have
obviously.
any of you ever had a girlfriend?
Yes. Why do you ask?
How many people are watching the stream? Let's find out.
Isn't that common? Daisy's picture must be such a thing to Daisy.
Do all you know what a woman is? Have you ever seen one of these?
That's like a
aren't there, like, women in,
Emily's
like-
one of those, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Emily's one of these.
women are those trains in Thomas and Friends that have like eyeliner and eyelids, and that's it, right?
Yeah, that's a woman.
Yeah.
That is a woman.
That's what it is, right?
I think so. I'm pretty sure. I'm
not too sure on that one, but you know.
I'm about to show y'all what's not a woman. All right, can y'all hold on a second? I gotta find a good picture.
Oh boy,
no, Shane, we won't wait for you.
Oh,
that's
God,
sad.
fine. I gotta type in the wiki. I gotta find the right image. God, y'all can't wait 8 hours for me to do all that while I'm using that
AOL. Shane.
I'm using
Hurry
AOL.
up.
I'm using AOL dial-up. Give me a moment. It's gotta do like the.
Yeah, it's got to phone up the space aliens to give you permission to use the internet.
Here's a question I actually have. It's like kind of curious. What defines the gender of the trains?
It's probably just going to be the face. Like, does this one have eyeliner on or not? Okay, it's a girl.
Like, it was just like someone in like the works. So like when they build the engine, they just kind of decide we're going to put eyeliner on this one.
I think so because you know,
like in the stories, in the original stories, Reverend Aldrich, like Wilbert, was always like, oh yeah, the guys that like the engines are usually always like guys, and the coaches are usually always like females. But then in reality, when people like name engines or like ships or anything, they're usually mostly always women. It's like Her Majesty or the Royal Scot, or you know, there's always like a her.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah, they
So
just
it's
like
And then you have a Cock of the North.
Oh, that's definitely a woman. What do you want about?
Well, the thing is, what do you call it? With Wylie touches on a really good point.
In reality, Audrey just looked at the machine and he's like, does this item look like, you know, ladylike? Like the coaches are like nice and like dainty looking. It's like, okay, they're girls. Oh, this steam engine, it's a very loud, dirty machine. This is a male.
Stephen brings up female trucks, male coaches. Reminds me in like some ERS story, like they had a Queen Mary brake van.
Yeah,
I think it also comes down a lot to the livery, because like if Rebecca wasn't yellow, she definitely would be not a woman.
She'd be a banana.
And Emily looked like some like lady looking train, like, you know, like
with curves.
Her hair, her sides look like Lucy from Peanuts.
Do male trains have PPs? I think this is probably the most important question.
That's a real
important
one right there.
Important question.
It's a very valid question. Yeah.
And the answer would probably be no.
Nemo, going back to your point.
Yeah.
Going back to, I think it was you. I don't know who said this actually. Who said like it comes down to like what they name the engine. Well, what if the engine gets renamed?
I was going to say
it's a woman's name.
Yeah.
The thing is, why I was making the point like, oh, engines are normally associated with being female, as you know, they're like they have like feminine names. Like I say, it's not entirely true all the time, and I feel like just get into a bit of a broader discussion, but you could argue is maybe analogous to even transgenderism. I don't know if it gets renamed from like a male name to a female name or vice versa.
Actually, Nemo, it'd be transgender.
Right. Right.
So we gotta make sure those trains people. We gotta make sure those trains people have rights, because you know they didn't have rights beforehand.
Now, guys, we can all agree that this is not a woman, right? Wait, is it coming up?
I feel like we're definitely getting
definitely not. That's a figure.
Talking about.
That's a piece of wood.
That's a resin figure.
Hey, Woody.
We all support trains' rights. They essentially run the island, right? So they have a right to vote. Obviously,
we run this island.
I guess in the universe, trains' rights would be like workers' rights.
Pretty.
Yeah.
I mean,
right.
You get what do you call it? You get trouble in the sheds, which is like a direct like rip off of like.
What if a train doesn't? What if a train doesn't want to work? What if it wants to like take a globe try and trip around the world, huh?
They're in luck.
They would never do that. That's a ridiculous idea, Shane. They would never do that.
Yeah.
They're in luck because that's what happened.
Ricky, watching that with you was that was a trip.
Oh, that was great. The first and only time I ever watched Big World.
I think I recorded.
Question: do you guys think 9/11 will happen in Thomas? Well,
I have an answer for this. I actually have the answer for this. Okay.
Oh no.
Thomas takes place in the real world, right? real people have appeared in Thomas, as evident by the Queen in the newest thing. That's a real person. Prince Charles is in it. That's another real person. So if real people appear in the Thomas universe and real locations appear, then everything in real life occurs in Thomas, right?
It's never been implied. It's never been implied that the mainland had some sort of like. It's never been implied that the rest of the world had like an alternate history based on the fact that the Sodor exists. And in the Railway series, to like, because obviously that's still a thing, isn't it? It's like, oh, when the engines leave the island, are they still sentient? Do they still have faces or not? Because technically they're not supposed to, but in the several books, that's like not true. They have faces. So vehicles have faces.
Thank you, Nemo. Thank you.
Like so, exactly. It's like so, but they've never. Basically, the entire like premise of the Railway series is supposed to imply that sort of like pretty much everything that happens would still happen whether the engines were to have faces or not. The phases are literally just there as a form of communication. So yes, 9/11 happened, the Titanic sank, all these, World War II happened, all these major world events did
Titanic
happen.
didn't sink.
No, you're right. Obviously, it was the
that was the Olympics.
It was the Olympics. Yeah, that was Nemo.
How foolish of me to believe the lies of the White Star Line.
Nemo, I have a very important question to ask you.
Okay. What's the question?
What's that an image of on the screen right now? I'm sorry to interrupt. What's that a picture of?
It's from some like YouTube interactive adventures thing.
I see like Porter, and I see like the back of some rail vehicle that I can't identify.
Looks like a toad.
Vinny from the Great Race.
But it looks like New York in the background. Is that the Freedom Tower?
New York.
No, that's why I wanted to look at this.
So this is in the present day.
Yeah, I was gonna say. This is New York.
Okay, well the Freedom Tower's there, so
It's almost like it has absolutely no direction, and no one knows what they're doing.
Wow. Nemo, can you bring up the picture of in the actual like short where Vinny's arriving on the ship? Can you bring that up real quick?
Yeah, give me a second.
Yeah, look at Wiki. Look at Wiki clogging it 2 miles an hour.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay. Nemo, what ship is this?
This is the what is it called again? I know what this is called. I can't remember the name of it.
Is it the American
Normandy,
Star?
Right? This is the SS Normandy that arrived in New York.
Oh yeah, this is Normandy. That's it, Normandy. SS Normandy. It is the SS Normandy. Yeah.
Yeah, and then so what you're saying is Vinny was on the SS Normandy when it caught fire and sank.
Yeah, this is why he's not appeared in Boba. This is why this is the last time we ever saw him. He was on the SS Normandy when it caught fire.
Right.
I'm goofy watching the background of Boba, actually.
Is that what that?
Oh, you found the image. Good, you found the image.
Oh, he's done. He's done.
Oh my
he's
God.
dead. Yeah, he's.
Is he like strapped on, like all the blood's rushing to his head?
Yeah.
Wait, oh my God!
It's
is that the iceberg that killed the Titanic? I mean, the Olympic in the background as well.
It is. I think it is.
Oh,
it's hunting down ships, Wylie.
This is one of those pictures that has just so many, leaves you with so many questions, even more questions that are unanswerable, like Thomas questions.
This isn't unanswerable. This is completely answerable.
Yeah,
Vinny was on the SS Normandy when he came back from the Great Race. It arrived in New York. The ship caught fire, and then it sank in the harbor, and they left it there. And he was just strapped to the deck. He can't do anything because he's a fucking train.
Now, while we're still in the Big Apple, what do you think those engines in Atlantic Avenue Tunnel are up to?
I'm sure, see, those are the real, people always talk about, Henry got locked in the tunnel. They've been in that tunnel for 150 years.
Yeah, exactly. What the fuck is Henry worrying about?
Henry has nothing on those guys.
Yeah, fucking.
What about those engines that are wasn't there some engines found in somewhere in Europe that were stash away engines, which were reserves for the Second World War, and then they got discovered. When woken up, do you reckon they were like, "Oh shit, right, get ready for war, boys! It's time. We're gonna go murder some fucking Nazis or go murder the English or something." And then they're just like, "Guys, the war's been over for 70 years."
Shit, oh shit, it's Hitler too.
Yeah, and then they have to fill in the engines on the history of the world.
How about the Nazi gold train?
Yeah, I was thinking.
No, that's a funny story. Yeah. But then we talked about it years ago.
Yeah,
We did, yeah.
because a couple of years ago, they're like, we've made leads on it, like we have a lead, and like nothing ever came of it.
Yeah, people are saying we know where it is or something along those lines, like 5 years ago, and you just heard nothing.
When they're like allegations, there's like a British reserve of steam engines as well.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
No,
the
here's the
strategic
thing.
reserve.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Wylie mentioned like a bunch of engines in Europe. That's like in both Sweden and Russia. Not for World War II. It was for the Cold War. They kept they kept a fleet of steam engines in reserve because the theory was nukes get deployed and they wipe out like most of the electric infrastructure. A steam engine can still technically operate. You don't need electricity or anything like that. So they kept a reserve fleet of steam locomotives in Sweden and Russia until in Sweden they got rid of it in the 90s. Like they they opened up the reserve, they sold on the engines or scrapped them. In Russia, I'm not 100% sure. I feel like I've read somewhere that there's suggestions that it might still be technically in use. Like the engines are technically preserved, but they're still maintaining like crew knowledge. They're still maintaining the engines.
What a job!
I'd believe it. Like I'd believe it. I'm sure they still. I'm sure the Russians would still be like just keep them just in case.
Yeah, like they still run them on like rail tours and stuff. But there's a lot of young crews that are still being trained up, and it's like you don't need that many young crews for like a tourist train.
Here's 3 questions for you. Is Thomas sexist? Does Thomas hate women? And is Thomas a woman?
Yes, to all of those.
That's a really interesting set of questions right there.
Yes.
Does Thomas eat women?
He could. I mean, I don't think he discriminates.
Are you also including women trains?
So Ricky, what you're saying is he eats the younglings too?
He eats them all. It doesn't matter.
He eats them all.
All of them.
But can he eat though? What goes beyond the mouth?
I don't know. I guess he puts them in his smoke box, which could be deadly if he's in steam.
It wouldn't be a good time.
One comment's like, Thomas definitely hates girls. He's a douche to Rosie, Shima, and Nia. He's not a douche. He's just gay.
That's possible. We don't know.
Do you reckon if, like, how far do you think, like, Wilbur or Christopher would have been allowed to go? Wilbur probably would have been able to get away with it more. But how far do you reckon they would have been able to get away with, like, referencing or showing, like, all this stuff that is, like, considered, like, does 9/11 or, like, World War II or does Hitler, like, show up? Like, the scrap drawing is probably the most far they've ever gone, showing, like, the extent of, like, scrapping and the engines dying. But, like, if they went further, at what point would someone, like, some sort of, like publishing company step in and be like, you can't do this. You can't show the Twin Towers in the background of this Thomas book.
Probably pretty early on.
Lawfully accurate. Like, you can't do it. Like,
no, it's different because back in the day he could probably do whatever he wanted, but now obviously any time post 9/11 they'd be like, you can't show me.
I'm sure Wilbur Audrey would have loved to have put the Twin Towers in the first Railway Series book.
I'm sure that was one of
I just want to point out in the hour and a half that we have been streaming, we have mentioned coronavirus, 9/11, and Nazis.
I'm pretty sure this is one of the rules you mentioned at the very beginning of the stream, that like we weren't allowed to go into like 9/11 conspiracy theories.
We somehow talked about Nazis, but we didn't talk about the Marklin engine. The Marklin engine's like coming to Sodor.
Right.
The Marklin engine.
Yeah, the Marklin, that's his name.
His name is Marklin, and he was made by Marklin, so he's Marklin the Marklin engine.
It's like diesel engine.
It is very interesting how obviously the way that Thomas the Tank Engine and the Railway Series have been written to be books that are supposed to be almost 99% emulating real life, but it just have this one fictional element to it, that the fact that the trains and some machinery on the island or just in the world, I guess, talk. It's very interesting how everyone seems to always then like immediately start jumping to the questions like, oh, does that mean like 9/11 exists? Like it's always 9/11 and like Hitler and World War II, and it really just sort of shows us and sort of says a lot about us as people, that we're like that, in this very fairly innocent story where the only gimmick in the books, arguably, is supposed to be and was intended to be the fact that the trains talk, is that we can very easily that we always are always coming to the same conclusions about and point of discussion where we're just talking about 9/11 and World War II and Hitler and does it all exist and can the trains fuck each other? You know, like
No. Now I've been biting in the chat for a while.
There is no way that you can sit here and have anyone in the world can have a conversation about Thomas the Tank Engine and how it fits into the real world without somehow leading into, oh, does that mean the planes were sentient that crashed into were the Twin Towers sentient? Were the people inside? Were they prop figures?
Oh my God.
Like,
Well, if it was here to
were the mobile phones sentient? How does a modern iPhone Siri compare to a sentient train engine? You know, it's so.
You know, Wylie, in Thompson,
there's no escaping it. Guys, help us, please.
You know, Wylie, in Thompson's defense, you know, the Cars universe gets the same questions.
Yeah,
the Cars universe is even worse because in the Cars universe, it's all machinery made for the ease of people, but people don't exist.
Right. So that means all these real life like figures would have been cars. Yeah.
Like, at least in Thomas, like the trains still serve the same purpose they do in the real world.
As it should do.
So you're saying it's like tugs where like there's no people, but like they do.
But even in tugs, they imply there's people. They imply it. They're like, oh, the town, we got to save the town, blah blah blah. They just don't show them.
They just don't show them. Yeah, exactly. I'm sure they did that intentionally so it wouldn't look like Thomas with like the same.
Well, also because David Mitton knew like Thomas looked really like realistic, like for the most part, and then you see the figures and it takes you out of the work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In tugs, he's like, I'm just not going to put them in.
And that was totally in the show's benefit, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's like when it comes to making, because it's quite easy to make films and stories about sentient beings that usually aren't sentient, like horses or animals, or just like that's very like Disneyfied. But when it comes to vehicles, because the vehicles are designed by people and are so specifically made for people, and this includes things like Chuggington, Cars, Thomas, literally anything where there's like sentient vehicles. You know, how far can you or should you go when you are writing stories about sentient vehicles? How far should you go to emulate real life? Because like Cars obviously goes to the full extent to just be like, oh, everything's just like a vehicle, but it just acts like a person kind of thing.
Yeah.
Chuggington is sort of like everything's very cartoony and sort of, but there's also like
I don't even count Chuggington.
Exotic cartoony like machinery that just also exists, and sort of they also have like, you know, like the controller is like that signal thing that talks as well. So there's like more.
Chuggington doesn't exist. We don't know what that is. We don't talk about that.
I don't know what it is.
I don't even know what I'm talking about either. I've just completely forgotten. But then Thomas is the only one that can go all out in being like, literally everything is real except the trains talk. So like, but like at what point, and obviously Thomas has lasted the longest and will hopefully, arguably, last the longest in the long run. Like people will hopefully
not at this rate.
On this. No, not at this rate. No, give it 20 years. Don't worry, I'll make my comeback. You know, like what, you know, what's going to carry it? I think this discussion that always ends up talking about 9/11 and World War II.
Yeah.
You know what?
Every comment is 9/11 happened in this and that.
These conversations, right, is what will keep the Thomas franchise alive for the rest of the time. The end.
But, you know, maybe 9/11 didn't happen in Thomas because, you know, the planes are sentient. Maybe they would have had, like, more control over the matter. Maybe they would, like, steered themselves to, like, avoid the building a little bit and just, like, crash into the Hudson.
Like, nobody asks these questions when they're, like, watching Cars or, like, Chuggington. Well, okay, fuck Chuggington. But, like, when they watch Cars is, like, the only other mainstream, like, sentient vehicle franchise out there, right, that's actually successful, right? When people talk about Cars, people usually say like, oh, the car's alive, is this that, but no, I don't see people talk to the extent about like Cars that like, oh, does 9/11 exist? Were the planes sentient? Did they crash into the building? You know, like I don't see people talk about that as much as they do when it comes to Thomas.
Yeah, you know why?
Like there's people in Thomas and not in
because Thomas is a low hanging fruit.
At the end of the day, Thomas was made by some crazy guy. Like if you went up to Wilbur Audrey and you're like, did 9/11 happen to Thomas? Would be like, of course it did. This is the real world. Whereas Cars, I'm sure Disney would be like, no, this did not take place. You know what I mean? Like, it's different. Like, Audrey was like some guy who he was like very matter of fact. He'd be like, of course it did. This is the real world, except the trains have faces. Whereas like Cars is some corporate thing where the company would do anything possible to like steer away from that top. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're probably
the Communist Republic of China exists in Thomas, but it wouldn't exist in Cars because they need to sell to that market. I mean, I'm sure Disney would be afraid to. They'd be afraid to depict like China's like.
No, but give it like
as really racistly rule.
No, but like you know when you go on like YouTube and if you like find memes of Thomas that are made by like people that aren't obviously fans, it's usually always like Thomas is like the train at Auschwitz, or Thomas is like a bomb, or like something. Thomas is like it's always, but it is no, honestly, it always is. When Vids Paul made his video, the documentary, he chose to make it about Thomas, not Cars, because Thomas, I guess, is more inherently interesting to overanalyze than Cars is, which I think is what sort of contributes to Thomas's legacy. And no, because like you know the way we look at like culture and videos and stuff that was made like 70, 100, like years and years and years, decades ago, like well before our generations, and we sort of like. We always like, conceptualize it in this with like modern twisted ideas. Like Thomas is easily one of those franchises that in 100 years time, 200 years time, people will look back on and they will keep making the same like references to like, oh, Thomas is the train at Auschwitz and he carries all the Jews. Like that. Like, that is likely what's gonna like Thomas's legacy is going to carry on
because people just don't know how to be funny. It's just like the most like low brow, bottom of the barrel thing because everyone.
Yeah, it's
everyone that makes Thomas a tangent shit post that isn't in the Thomas fandom just has like the most low brow, like stupid sense of humor when it comes to Thomas.
That's true.
It's either Thomas is a bomb, or Thomas is smoking weed, or Thomas is some weird crazy creature that's living inside a train. Like it's always that.
It's always edgy stuff.
Yeah.
It's like on par. It's like on par with people being like, "Oh, it's Super Mario. He gets high off the mushrooms. Nothing he sees and does in the Mushroom Kingdom is real." Or
it's like the same it's like the automatic default thing people go to when they.
I mean, that's not necessarily a bad thing.
It's just like Mario. It's like. But with Thomas, there's a lot of fuel for the fire.
Don't know what Thomas is. Like,
they see Henry in the tunnel and they're like. Like, there's a lot of fuel for these people who don't really know.
I'd almost call it, and I'm not saying I hate the show, but I'd almost call it like the Robot Chicken effect, where it's like they're taking all these well-known franchises and they're just making the most obvious jokes that they are funny. Like at some point, like if you do it in a certain way, it can be funny, it can be well done. But like some jokes, like the way they like when they do like they did a parody of Thomas, and it was very much like, oh, it's Thomas, but it's the the speed whatever blowy uppy car chase kind of film, whatever is kind of fun. But like when they do like stuff like they'll parody things like Barbie. It'll just be making the same, like everyone makes jokes about how like, oh, how do the Barbie toys reproduce? There's something down there, and then they'll make sketches about that. It's I call it that because it's like it seems to be the go-to default thing that people think about when they're talking about this.
It's like useless. It's like useless information at a party where it's like you're at a party like, dude, there was this episode of Thomas where a train got trapped in a tunnel forever and then it died, and people are like, oh, that's so crazy. Oh my god, that's so crazy. It's like it's not meant for rational like
but because people don't get it. People are like, oh my god, if he was in the tunnel, how did he eat? Like, whereas Audrey was like,
it doesn't
decades, 100 years until he's fine. He's a train.
The only nourishment it's gonna get is like the bat shit that's coming from the ceiling.
Yeah, maybe they'll get the coronavirus.
Right.
No, I was hoping Nemo would like remember a particular incident with that one.
I remember that. I do remember that one.
Do tell.
Yeah, tell Nemo.
I have to dig up the image, but
I'll dig up the image. You start telling the story because I know where I have the image saved. It's on some photo bucket account.
If I remember it rightly, it was a recent story. I think it was like a
it was preservation era.
It was preservation era. It was like a double header with 2 engines, and they were going through. I think at one point it was like Wales somewhere. It went through a tunnel. It was slightly uphill, so the engines have to work a bit harder, which means a sharper exhaust. And I guess the tunnel hasn't been cleaned out in a long time, because the exhaust from the first engine managed to dislodge all of the accumulated bat shit and general sort of disgusting stuff that's on the tunnel ceiling, and make it rain down on the engine behind it. So when it came out of the tunnel, the second engine was just absolutely covered in literal shit.
But I think it was also the tunnel was still in regular use, but it hadn't been used by steam engines in a long time.
Because diesel engines don't have an exhaust like that, so they're not going to kick it up as the steam engine did.
No, so I was always confused by that, because I knew what story you're referring to, but I guess we're now discussing the anatomy of bats. But how does bat shit stay up on? How does it liquefy and dry on the ceiling of a tunnel?
It did.
When it's upside down.
It fell to the floor when the steam engine went through it. It pushed into the air and sprinkled it all over the place.
Yeah, I get it. The steam engine goes inside, the exhaust from the funnel's going up and hitting the roof. But how is the shit there in the?
Because the bat's hanging upside down. Its ass is facing the ceiling.
Yeah, but then does it what? Does the shit just not drool all over him instead? How does it? What causes the shit to stay on the ceiling?
It just depends on how well they fire it in the air.
I don't know right now. I've completely lost the plot on this.
the missing coach, man. I fucking hate it. It's just so confusing. But
stop for a little longer because I'm on the photo bucket page right now. I just logged in.
Hey, we don't talk about Thomas versus Brewster. That's an old video. We don't talk about that.
Where the hell is that?
No, this is unrelated, but I always found it funny the train's name was Brewster. Doesn't that sound like a term you'd be for a beer? Throw me a Brewster, man. Doesn't that sound
Isn't Brewster the only the basis for Brewster is the only British one in the show as well, loosely, aside from the A4
yeah, I was gonna say the A4, yeah, that's a British one, but yeah.
I don't even know.
I don't think there's anything else British in there.
Could a real life Thomas movie work? Possibly to the same extent that something like Paddington would work. This is something I'm really interested in and I would love to tackle myself, but I feel like a lot of the stuff I personally am interested in and the way I write things and the way I approach things would be very different to what a lot of people would probably want.
Good news,
this sort of thing is very subjective. Yeah.
It is very subjective. It depends. It really does depend.
Yeah,
but it would definitely be a very interesting challenge, which is definitely something I would like to tackle in the future. So if anyone wants to help me with that, drop me a DM.
Hell yeah!
All right, let me do a screen share.
All right. Let's see it.
Stinky.
Poop.
There he is.
There he is. I mean, the Olympic be like.
There he is.
Oh boy!
So imagine if this engine had a face.
It'd be covered in
shit.
It wouldn't even be eating it. It'd be covered in his eyelids and stuck in his eyebrows. It'd be in his nose.
Does this particular engine have a unibrow?
It looks like it.
Why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah, just why not? Just make his life even worse. Yeah.
It's like a Norman thing.
I don't mean to throw this completely off topic, but I do have a question I want to pose to you guys. It's relevant. New information that was dropped today. Let me find it.
Oh no!
Oh, by the way, Nick, that reminds me of something I need to tell you in a second. I have a message to pass on.
Okay.
Sorry, I can't believe it's taken me so long.
Okay. Do you want to share it before I?
So basically, briefly earlier, I was in a chat with Michael White, who writes.
Oh yeah,
he writes for the show now. He's part of the writing team, but he's also a Thomas fan, and he was in this chat that I was in, and I mentioned that I was coming to join you for the stream, and he mentioned, "Oh, can you tell Nick from me that just wanted to let him know that when I was writing the episodes I wrote for Thomas, I actually had like his reviews and like his like thoughts on in mind. Like I sort of pictured like Nick watching the episodes and like reading the script and stuff. That's like he's like, because I didn't really want to be like a kind of like a Sharon Miller, and I was like, yeah, I think you'll find that brilliant.
I'm gonna say Michael White makes some really nice stuff.
That's like the nicest thing I've like heard. That's incredibly nice of him. That's amazing. I will say his episodes are the best ones in Willa. They're the saving grace.
Definitely are. I think easily.
Yeah.
That's the benefit of having a fan who who's with it writing for the show.
You know, when you're making a show about trains, you need someone who knows what a train is to write about. Otherwise, you get like the majority of the Blubble episodes.
It is nice because like even when Michael writes like the stories that arguably are very gimmicky, like the one where James keeps changing all his colors and stuff, like the dialogue and like everything, it was quite fun. There was still something about it that was very much like, oh, you can tell that like a fan is writing this and the story is sort of like fun. I don't know. There's something about it seems much more competent than something like, I don't know, who's like one of the other modern writers for the show.
I know who they are.
Yeah.
Like when it's not like oh, Thomas or James ran out of brake fluid or something. Like it's
yeah.
Like that's stupid. We don't talk about that. But like Michael stuff is really good. So
his stuff is definitely the best in the show right now. The Bulgy episode was like amazing. The Toby one was really good. Like he's definitely the saving grace of the shit stain that is Bubba.
we need a Bubba episode where Birdie sends Ace to go get blinker fluid.
We need an episode of Bubba where Birdie dies.
Birdie needs to like fall off a bridge and die. That needs to happen in the show before it ends.
It's like a 20-second episode.
Birdie's already dead inside. Have you seen the house he lives in?
He lives in a slum.
He lives in the slums.
Anyway,
do you still like Thomas season 14?
No.
When did you say
that
there
you go.
That's it. That's it. No. Next question.
Let me bring up my question now, because I actually do want to discuss this.
Let's hear it.
Emily's number 12 now in canon. What do we think?
Sam Wilkinson. Sam Wilkinson.
Here's my next question. Is that the like?
Sucks.
Is that like the font of the 1 and 2? Is that like Thomas and Edward? Or is it more like Don and Douglas, who just like decide fuck it, we're gonna use a different font for no reason?
I'm sure it's the Thomas intro font that's like the first thing that comes out.
Yeah.
Where are the tracks going in this picture? Why do they go towards like a miniature scale bridge? And why does one rail look longer than the other?
It's Forrest perspective, Wylie.
Right. What do we like? Honestly, though, what do we really think about this? Because
I think that the perspective of the windmill could use some work.
Not that. I mean,
honestly, I'm surprised they didn't do this.
All right.
It's taken them this long to put a number 12 on Emily.
Like, I don't know about
something they could have done back in the hit series. You know,
I feel like it's surprising they didn't do it sooner.
Yeah,
I agree.
I don't know what I think about the new direction the show is going. Like that smoke is just not realistic looking.
Yeah. Jacob, I'm not sure about the direction the show's going either. Down, into a trash can. That's kind of a questionable way to head down.
We're past the trash can. We're in the.
Are those clouds flying below the bridge in the background? Or is that like
are those floating bushes? What is that?
Floating bushes.
What is that?
I regret pulling this up.
Do you see that? What is that?
This is Haram.
Damn it!
We're nitpicking everything but what Nick wants to talk about.
But that's pretty sad. Why are there floating bushes in the background?
Is that supposed to be the viaduct? What is this? I can't tell what this drawing is.
What is that? What's over the? Is it supposed to be a giant bush behind the viaduct? What is that?
Nick, you should pull up the rest of
my house.
It definitely doesn't look like the clouds that Emily's producing.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I can get behind this new era of the show. Like this whole look is just throwing me off, man.
Yeah, I don't know about the black. I don't know about the black
agree.
and white. You know, that's kind of like too far of a throwback to old cinema.
I love cartoons. You know, I love black and white cartoons, but this is just too much for me. I'm not a Thomas fan anymore.
There's a lot of problematic aspects from that era of animation. I don't know if we should be.
It's really problematic. I can't fund this. I can't support this.
We already had to let Cuphead pass by through media. You know, I don't know if we can do this twice in a row.
There's something else interesting, and I think this was mentioned in if any of the boys are watching, the Busted Buffer crew, if they're watching, they mentioned this in the video. But like Emily's handrails in CGI, like I can get it in the model series, but in CGI they seemed warped and bent. And here it's really apparent. Here it's really, because this is obviously just a cutout or CG thing, like the CGI model.
No, yeah, you can totally see their big.
Why is the handrail warped? Why did they intentionally warp it?
I like that. It's like a realism, you know? Like they're not
going to detail for the model.
Yeah, I don't know why they did it, but it's realistic. But again, it doesn't fit the look of the model. Like, that's the thing. The rest of the model isn't realistic.
It's nice, I guess, but like this is like an intentional thing they did, and they've not done it for any of the other characters. Like,
speaking of parts that like persisted through the miles, you know, something that's always amused me, like that piece of plastic that's always on the brake pipes. That's from like the mile era.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I know that just carried over.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, it's part of the piece.
They didn't know. Like they're just like, oh yeah, this is part of the train, right?
Wait, what plastic part?
It's like right by the lamp. You see how it's like it curves and it goes straight down. That straight down piece isn't supposed to be like on it.
Yeah.
That's just a piece of plastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just
That's where the brake fluid's stored. That's where they store the brake.
Yeah, that's where it's stored.
That's the lever.
Exactly.
It's like a bike pump. It's like that little plastic tab.
Do we? Okay, getting back on topic here. Are we upset that she's 12 now, or no?
I don't care at this point.
I was gonna say I'm not upset, and I'm not happy either. I'm just like, well,
it doesn't add anything.
Emily was never really.
Emily is number 12, and a bear shits in the woods. Like, okay, like that's well, okay.
It's so irrelevant to me.
You're right. It is irrelevant. You're right.
It's like, oh no, they're never gonna be able to add Barry the rescue engine to the show now.
Oh no!
It's not like it's like, oh wow, this signifies Emily's a main character now. She's been a main character since season 8. Like that, nothing new.
I think.
Are we upset that she's 12?
I think Rick. I think Nick should show the other coloring pages. I think we're having fun with these.
It's scary. Let me tell you.
I mean, we can bring them up. I just want to say
there's one in particular. Like there's one in particular.
I'll bring them up in a second.
I'm gonna pretend it's not real.
Wait, doesn't that mean like Emily's gonna be like when she came out in what, series 7?
Yeah.
She's gonna be like 20 years old in like a few 2 years, 3 years.
I wouldn't think about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sad.
But before we move, before I change the image, I just want to say, if they do, when they give Emily a 12, I hope it's not like unaddressed. I hope it's like addressed in an episode and she gets it from doing something.
I wouldn't give them credit because they didn't address Rosie's paint change.
They did though.
I think they did. Briefly, she's like, "Oh, I want to be red like you, James," and then she just sort of was. Well, she is red like James, and then they talked about it in the episode, but they never talked about it like it was like a change that happened.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like,
Rosie, you're red. Wow.
They kind of just like pretended she was always red. Like, oh, how are you doing, Red Rosie?
Yeah.
Yeah. This is something even smaller than that. I doubt they'd even bother acknowledging it, because then that means they'd have to write an episode about Emily, and they clearly don't know what to do with her. So.
Emily's the most like inconsistent main character. She's had like 3 different personalities throughout this whole show, and I don't know which one's supposed to be like the main one.
I wonder what a David Mitten Emily would have been like. That'd be something I'd be interested in seeing.
I liked Emily when she was a bossy bitch. And
that was funny. It created a yin yang between Thomas and Emily.
I think Carson. I think Carson or Fabian did like a season 5 style Emily. That looked really cool.
A season 5 styled Emily?
Like a design or like a written character?
Damn it! If someone's watching, like someone's got to like ask, because like I don't know where to find it.
Ricky, that's like
I actually want to see
coloring
that.
page
I
is too
don't
much.
remember that if I have.
So you saw it?
I'm looking at the
I saw
photo.
it.
Face and color, and it just looked. It looked more like a season 5 character than like a season.
Oh, what is this?
Nick,
Monkey.
Nick,
Jeez.
can we just go
What
back to
the-
talking about 9/11,
What
please?
is that?
Bring back the 9/11 shit.
Please, I beg you.
Jesus
This,
Christ!
this,
Are
this,
you saying
horrendous.
9/11 is
talking about
preferable
this.
to
Also, first of all, you're endorsing the website because it's there for everyone to see. So
That's
nobody
one point-
please click this. Nobody please click this website. It is not worth your time.
I just wanna
Please,
point out
can you
that-
just put up a picture of the Twin Towers and we'll talk about whether 9/11 exists.
Oh my
in the atomic
God!
bomb or
Wylie,
not.
stop!
Jacob, I want to point out something. James and Rebecca have the same like clip art smoke. I think.
Wow.
What size is he?
All three? No, Shane. All three of them do. Thomas is just angled.
So
Yeah.
also, I want to point out Thomas's track is wider than the other two.
He's broad gauge.
Wow.
He's
Broad
just
gauge.
Why has he
chilling.
got a tail? And why has the tail got a stumpy end? Is it because of his
He's just
short,
vibing.
stumpy
Leave him
bum?
alone, dog. Leave him
Why has he got
alone.
handlebars?
Dude, this is
Why have you got
this is
handlebars?
traumatizing.
I think if you told me like 10 years ago that there was going to be Bully Pacific in the show, I would not have expected it to turn
Look,
out.
Be a
it'll
big
be
yellow
anything like
banana.
this.
Not only that, just to result in this image, I could not have predicted that it would result in this image.
Imagine seeing this image in like 2007.
Why does Rebecca look like she's doing that truck face from like season 8? You know the one I'm talking
Imagine
about?
seeing this fucking picture in 1945 when the fucking first book
Imagine,
comes out.
yeah, imagine. I'm sure people would be disturbed.
It would
No,
be
Wylie,
like-
you know what would have happened? If all she saw is he would have just never written a book again after Epic Day Out. That would have been it.
And then it'd be like a paradox, a bootstrap paradox, and it never would have happened, meaning
Yeah.
it never could have influenced not
Good.
happen- Oh God.
I just want to point out, like, James, you know, he's supposed to be a lion, right? But he just keeps reminding me, like, that deleted scene from Whoopa, where, like,
I was
Carlos,
thinking the same thing. I was
where
thinking
Carlos
the
had
same
the
thing.
Mayan calendar around his head, and I guess they're like, I guess someone must have, like, oh, wait, this one's a little too racist, we're not going to put this one in the movie.
Yeah, luckily they deleted that before it came out, but
I think that was too much.
that was too much. We're just making
There
that
you
funny
go.
face.
Thomas's penis is coming out of his ass. There his is pee-pee. You answered your own question.
What?
Actually, Wylie, that is
I hate
He
you.
has a tail. I didn't. You're right. I didn't even.
It's in the
see
chat. Just highlight it.
actually, Wylie, that is a parasitic worm that's going to infest
There you go.
Thomas's brain shortly.
Yeah, he's got brainworm.
I think a lot of people at Mattel have brainworms.
Let's bring up another photo.
Please.
Oh, no.
It's going to be an
No,
actual
I
photo
can't
of
take any more,
something.
please.
Is this one gonna be Wylie?
Please.
Oh no, it's gonna be this.
Oh,
What am I? Oh, Jesus Christ! Stop.
All right, moving on. All right, next
What am I
picture.
looking at?
Okay,
What am I looking
I
at?
guess
What am I looking
Next
at?
picture. Next
Sometimes
picture.
I love Ryan. Sometimes I love
Moving
the
on.
fact
Moving
that
on.
Wilbur
We're not going to even
Audrey
address this one. We're not
decided
even
to-
So
talk
about
about it.
that shit again.
Sometimes I
Why is the
appreciate
buffer
What the hell is
black?
this?
Why is the buffer
What
being
is
black?
this?
Shut up. Shut
Sometimes
up.
I
Moving on.
appreciate the fact that Wilbur Audrey was like, you know what, my son's got the measles, right? What am I going to do? I'm just going to make up some stories about some trains with some faces. You know, sometimes, and that just inspired this amazing, 75-year-long franchise. You know what? I'm just so glad. Sometimes I'm really grateful that he did that for us and brought so many people together, and then inspired probably one of the greatest children's television shows of all time. Sometimes I'm glad he did that. And sometimes I wish I could go back in time and shoot him in the face.
Okay. Let's move on. Let's keep the ball rolling. Keep the ball rolling. All right, next picture.
This guy.
Oh, for God's sake!
What is it?
Okay. All right.
What?
I'm muting myself.
Controversial. This isn't that offensive.
No,
This looks like any generic character from like season 17 to 21. I'm not.
This is okay. I do.
Is that Scarloi's cab?
No.
I'm kind of
Is that
amazed
Carlos
they-
and Victor's face put together?
I'm actually shocked about how close this looks like the prototype. So good
Yeah.
for
I'm
them.
surprised that even this prototype was even in the show. Like I didn't
Yeah,
expect that.
same.
All right, next picture.
All right, I gotta find it. It's the
That new Thomas logo is kind of annoying me. It's like, oh, Thomas is going around the world.
It looks like the Buzz Lightyear Star Command logo.
Are we gonna have to are we gonna have to wait in line for like an hour in like some tiny stinky compound of a plastic, and like we have to watch the fast pass line get loaded onto the moving vehicle sooner than we do?
All right, let's move on to the next picture. Next picture.
All right, next picture. Oh crap! Which one is it? Is it this one? Yeah, this one.
Why is
what's going on here?
why is the face round? I thought cars had like square. I thought like it was.
Wait. Yeah, what is this? Is it
Ashima looks different.
Yeah, you know, Shima really tends to have a variety in her shape, Ricky.
Oh God.
She's a shapeshifter.
You know, sometimes she's a car, sometimes she's a train, sometimes she's a little more shapely.
God, it's literally just Hot Wheel.
Why do they keep using the same like default girl face for the female characters?
It's kind of stereotypical and almost a little sexist in a way.
It is. No, it is.
Why couldn't they bring
It's like all the girls
have
have big eyes, big eyelashes, and thick lips.
Why couldn't they have just fucking bricked this abomination up in a tunnel and made them like fuck's sakes, like
someone's in chat to point out something interesting.
Oh, what?
Why do the tires have counterweights?
Because they resized the train wheels to use on them.
Yeah.
The reuse of assets, that's why.
That's actually a very good question. I didn't even notice that.
They're just decorative.
Caroline.
Like, is the gimmick supposed to be like, oh, she's a car, but she wants to be like a train? Is that what they're trying to go for?
Nick, you've always said that it's not accurate that Caroline has her eyes as lights. Well,
Caroline's not canon.
How would you like if Caroline looked like this?
I'm afraid.
I don't know how to answer that.
You know what? Someone just said that this would make a perfect Hot Wheels crossover. It would be perfect. It's too bad they're probably never going to make a toy of it.
That's true.
Yeah, they already did Thomas Hot Wheels crossover.
If only Mattel,
they don't even make Thomas toys anymore. They make like
Thomas.
2 characters and that's it.
God, if only Mattel had some sort of connection between Thomas and Hot Wheels, you know, if only they like owned both of them at the same time. These two highly marketable, you know, toy selling franchises. If only. But you know, we can only dream.
We can only dream.
To be fair, even if they did release this as a Hot Wheels toy, I would shit and piss all over it, like the crybaby I am. Jesus Christ! Can we please move on to something else?
All
it's
right.
3 o'clock in the morning. I've got to work for tomorrow for 6 hours. This is not what I want on my conscience.
How about we answer questions in the chat now?
Let's do that, please.
Let's go all the way to work on Sunday.
Throw in some cool questions. Actual questions, not 9/11 questions.
Yeah, there's a few of those.
I think we've had enough of those to last a while.
Yeah, this video is definitely not getting monetized. Absolutely.
Whoops.
I go have a chicken burger and I come back and the whole chat's just got the funny number in it.
Thoughts on tugs? Does it approach the whole premise of like sentient beings better or worse than Thomas? That's an interesting question for you all.
I think we all
it's good.
We all agree that Tugs is like great.
Tugs is brilliant.
Here we'll pretend the stream is remotely on topic as we answer questions.
What is your favorite Railway series story?
Favorite? Oh, you know what? That's a good question because the whole point of this stream was to discuss like what we thought was the worst one. What is the best one, in all of your opinions?
Single story, or like single book, or like individual story?
Single story. What's the best story? Or favorite, I guess.
For me, it's probably Super Rescue.
For me, it is the.
It's a generic answer, but I can't fault it.
I like the one where Thomas
I don't know, because
into the back of a lorry and gets covered in eggs.
I have one.
The problem is, like, I think some of my favorite TV episodes would also be my favorite Railway series stories, so it's kind of like a shitty answer.
I've got one. I've got a few actually. I've got a few. It's not my favorite, but it's just ones I like to highlight.
Mm-hmm.
I've got 2 actually I like to highlight. Hello Twins to a lesser extent. Gordon Goes Foreign, definitely, because the reason why I suggest those is they highlight the best strengths of the Railway series of the television series. They've got the character interactions, they've got banter, you've got the written humour. There's no like accident or anything that happens. all of like the humor just comes from dialogue.
I agree. I think Gordon
goes far in his
more with age. Like I never got like the jokes in Gordon Goes Foreign, but as I got older, I did and appreciate it more.
Joke.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I love it. Like,
it is.
I think Flying Kipper is a very, very good story visually. It works in the book, but the actual episode itself definitely helps to exaggerate. Like the crash is definitely one of the best parts of that story, and obviously you can't. There's only so much you can showcase a crash in a book, you know. So like, this is a good story.
That's the thing. That Flying Kipper is one of those ones where I think the TV series made it better. Like some stories work better in TV. Gordon Goes Fallen works better in the book. Like you've got two categories really.
My favorite story is Edward's Exploit, and I think that's actually not a great episode. I don't think it translates very well. I don't think they
it's much better in the book. It's much better in the book.
Yeah.
Nick, were your eyes beaming from cheek to cheek?
Oh, shut up.
Yes. I love the trial Edwards put through that. Like, I mean, I talked about this in the last stream, but it's just like he's like put in the worst situation possible in that, and he comes through. I mean, he's pulling a packed train. They don't show how many coaches, but I'm assuming it's a lot of coaches. They're packed to the brim. You know, he's going uphill. It's raining. Fucking his side gets like ripped up, and one of his drive wheels doesn't work. Like, he's put through an extreme trial in that, and he comes through. It's a great story. I think
I said to you and Nemo before, but I feel like Edward's Exploit is like the climax of Edward's story arc throughout the whole Railway series.
It is. That is the last time we see Edward in Audrey's Airway series. Like, it's a perfect finale for him.
Yeah.
So I just want to point out a lot of things. Speaking of like the last time you see characters, last time you see Edward in the Railway series, he goes through his exploit, he proves his worth. The last time you see Henry in the books, he does a super rescue, he befriends Bear.
Yeah.
Last time you see Gordon, he gets to be reunited with his brother. Yeah. Has foreclosure on his fate. The last time James has a story, his final story, he gets stung by a fucking bee.
Yeah.
But that's appropriate. That's appropriate.
Also, talking to like the timing of the Railway series, the narrow gauge engines were characters before Harold the helicopter was a character.
That fucks me up.
Yeah, like because they were in the book.
You cut out what?
You cut out, Lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The first book, narrow gauge book, came pretty early.
Ninth book or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
Dolby. Yeah, but it's like a Dolby illustration as well. Every time I look at it,
it was a Dolby era book. Too bad the illustrations are horrific in that one.
It would. Oh yeah, I'm so happy that they did not adapt those in season 2 because I feel like it wouldn't have looked very.
It definitely would have been too much to do. Not just a technical thing, but like to have the second series of Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends jump to this like. Another completely different railway of a completely different set of characters wouldn't have worked. Like it needed Thomas needed a good 3 or 4 series to settle into like the main cast and then do obscure stories about other engines.
You can tell even in season 3 they're kind of like grasping at straws for stories because like Thomas gets Trust Thomas is basically like a reprise of Trucks but in standard gauge form.
I know. I was talking about this with someone the other day. They literally adapted Trucks in season 3 and just replaced her handle with James and Peter Sam with Thomas.
Basically the same idea.
But kept the best character, Gordon.
They kept Gordon, and they made Gordon be like, pretend to be sick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's in the exact
all right,
same
everyone
role.
remember, Gordon the Big Engine says, pretend to be sick, don't go to work.
Yeah, pretend to be sick, call out.
Don't get
just don't even risk it. Not in these times. Just don't even
Gordon
risk it.
the Big Engine says don't get coronavirus.
Take a word from our big blue friend. Just pretend to be sick.
He says, don't go to work. Stay home.
Gordon says, "Stay home. Stay in quarantine."
Oh, Ringo Starr narrating narrow gauge, I think, would be.
That would be weird.
That'd be really weird.
Handle came and he said,
"What's up, Shane?"
Speaking of humor in the Railway series, I want to point out something. In Tramway Engines, Mavis's story, involves her getting stuck in a dip.
Yeah.
In the TV series, Toby just kind of whatever, and Driver's telling him like, okay, we gotta help Mavis, and he's like, oh yeah, we don't want to get in trouble. But in the Railway series, Toby's in the Farquhar shed yard. he can see Toby from where he's standing, and
I love that.
And he doesn't give a shit.
Let me pull up the illustration.
Yeah, pull up the illustration so the chat can see. So, like, it's one of the funniest things in the book.
Well,
He's just like
Toby
I don't
can
care.
see Mavis struggling. It's just like, no, fuck that bitch.
Shane.
Yeah.
I like how you brought that up, because that kind of vaguely, it kind of ties into another point as to why I've kind of gone to appreciate tramway engines. The whole Mavis and Toby story absolutely clicks for me when you realize it's basically a bookend with Thomas the Tank Engine, except Toby's essentially Gordon, Mavis is essentially Thomas.
Yes.
Yeah, it's very similar.
Well, you got to zoom into the Farquhar shed. Show how close it
there's
is.
the shed in the
it's like
background.
right there. He was right there in the previous.
You got to show like the illustration before as well, where he's like, yeah, I'm not touching that with a 39.5-foot pole.
Do you reckon the face
he was probably only 39.5 feet away.
Do you reckon the face he's making in this illustration is like one of those, like, you know, resting bitch faces where it's like you're pretending to look really happy, but you're so like overly exaggerating, scrunching up your face with like happiness and excitement that you're like you fucking bitch.
I'm sure he's like, oh my god, look at you. Oh yeah, that
he's
just
laughing at it. He's enjoying it.
I can point to that one.
My god.
Damn it! Fuck. Doing great here, guys. Doing great.
Previous image, is it? Okay.
There we go. Yeah.
He's
right there. He's right there. He's right behind her.
Yeah. He's like, no.
He's like, are you kidding me?
He's like, I have to go all the way to work on a Saturday.
All the way to work.
The driver even looks like he's literally just like pointed down the line. He's like, Toby, literally look over there. Mavis is struggling. We need your help. And he's like looked at it, and he's just looked back at him and just gone, no, I'm not going to.
Not gonna happen.
He's like, I've had enough of that woman.
That's
actually kind of like. That's fun though, because that kind of shows a lot about Toby's character. He only fucking went to help Mavis when the driver pointed out that he would get in trouble if he didn't.
I don't know who I was talking to about before, but Toby is a very manipulative, always gets his way sort of character. And I don't mean that spitefully. I mean it like he's just a funny bastard old man who always gets his way sort of way.
I love that. I think that's like the perfect Toby. Toby's just an old funny man that like loves a good joke, but like he really just doesn't give a shit.
Wilbert perfected the characterization of the engines. He personified them so well. Absolutely, he really did like personify the engines in so well that like literally anyone could come up with like a premise for a story, throw the characters in, and the story would almost write itself.
I just want to point out, like, the first thing Toby did when he came to the island of Sodor was harass a cop.
He did. That's really what he did.
That's the first thing he does.
Toby really said fuck 12.
Yeah, fuck number 12.
He immediately follows us by.
He really came to Sodor and harassed a fucking cop.
He immediately follows us by taunting the most vain engine on the railway.
Toby just doesn't give a shit. He doesn't care. He doesn't care.
I'm sure like when the Fat Controller turned around to like, I can't remember who it was, but it was like, what Toby doesn't know about trucks isn't worth knowing. I'm sure Toby heard that and got the equivalent of whatever a trained boner is.
Like this one on like Toby's characterization in like the Hit Air and CG episodes. Like to me, Toby's like a funny old man who just knows exactly how to get his way. He's a little bastard.
Yeah, he is. Yeah. A fucking little bastard.
The thing is, there was like Toby, who was like the grumpy kind of old guy who always got his way. But then you had like who just didn't give a shit. But then you had like the old man like Edward, who was very wise and knowing, but
he's also a pushover.
Sentient. Yeah, he was a bit more of a pushover and a bit
kinda. Edward's stern though. Edward has his moments where he steps up.
To an extent. But like, there's definitely a difference in like they're both old wise characters, but the way they approach things is very distinguished.
Yeah.
Let me add a little further to that. There's been multiple times where Percy's being a little shit, and Toby's just like, "You go right ahead, man. You go right ahead." He does it, he does it in Percy and Harold. Toby's like, "Yeah, you go get that helicopter." He does it again when he's like, All right, I'll get the milk. You just go go on the quarry. I know you're not supposed to be there, but go have fun, kid. And then he does it a third time. What was the third time? I just had on tip of my tongue. I'm gonna remember in a second. Oh yeah, Ghost Train. He was like, oh, we're gonna pretend Percy's dead. This sounds like fun.
You know what I love about that? He joins in with what do you call it, Percy, like making fun of Thomas. Then the next story, when it's the other way around, when Percy's the one in like an embarrassing situation, Toby just joins in with Thomas making fun of him. Toby has no sides.
He's just pitting everyone against each other for his own amusement.
Basically.
Toby is the definition of chaotic neutral.
He is. He really is.
Toby do what Toby do.
He's out for his own amusement. He's like, I'm here because the Fat Controller needs me legally. I'm not going anywhere. I have diplomatic immunity.
Going back to unanswerable Thomas questions,
Sure.
with Toby, because like he was pretty much like an old man the moment he got to Sodor.
Sure.
What does that make him in modern days? Because surely he's like an extra like 50, 60 years old. Like, what happens to you when you get like that age?
I kind of like to imagine at some point the engine just stop aging. They kind of just have like a quote unquote set personality.
I think it reflects on the condition of the train.
Yeah.
Like if it's like a perfectly preserved, restored engine,
yeah,
it's not going to be like decrepit and old.
But you can't like rejuvenate a train. If it starts to look old and you repair it, like it'll be repaired, but like it's not like he's gonna look younger.
Yeah, Scarloey still acts old, but even when he got restored,
but like they age a lot slower. Like their lifespan could be a lot longer than a normal person's lifespan.
Well, arguably their lifespan could go on forever. Like,
yeah, if properly maintained, there's no reason why they can't.
Just like the props.
The thing is, like, they don't.
Now we gotta put a server in their heads and make them.
Well, there is that railway, Nemo, you know it, that is actually building the basis for Toby. What's it called? The
Neen Valley. Is it?
Yeah, it might be. I don't know. It seems to be on and off. Has been for the past like 15 years. But like, I would actually really like to see one of those in real life. I feel like it's probably one of the most quote unquote easy engines to rebuild because it's most. Well, I mean, the outside of it's wood, but like the inside of it there's a fairly small engine.
It's nice and small. It can't be that costly.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, what do you call it? There's already been a ton of like diesel replicas of Toby, and the basis, the one you're talking about, like the steam replica, that's using an existing engine. That's using like essentially like another tram engine, but it's just making it look more like Toby.
Yeah.
So
I'm actually surprised they've not finished it. That would be a very interesting looking loco to run on a like a heritage railway. Despite the whole Toby aspect.
They have what do you call it? They have like an actual Whisbeck and Upwell coach. They have like Henrietta's base like surviving. So
this was a Dolby illustration, right?
I have a question regarding what we're just talking about. In this illustration, clearly you can see the boiler inside. Wouldn't Toby's face technically be on
the boiler?
Yeah, I guess it would, but
and you wouldn't be able to see.
But also,
the front opens though. Like on the real Jason, it's open, so we could see, but his face would be on the inside.
But it's kind of a thing. I mean, on most of the steam engines, the face is on the front of the boiler. But then you have diesel engines who don't even have a boiler.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
so true. It's not really always a rule. And then you have the mountain engines who have a face on their ass.
Like some diesel engines have boilers to keep the steam heated coaches like warm and stuff.
They do. Some do. Yeah.
They do. Yeah. A lot of them have steam boilers, but it's not like positioned like a boiler on a steam engine.
Yeah.
So what this picture basically says is that in order for the engine to have a face, in order for the engine to qualify or a sentient being to have a face, it doesn't have to have a boiler per se, because the face doesn't necessarily appear on the front of the boiler.
Yeah, it doesn't have to.
Arguably, because arguably the faces don't appear on the front of any boilers because they're always on the front of the smoke box.
Yeah.
But like, I guess here this is the smoke box as well. Yeah. Never mind. Ignore what I was just saying.
I always liked how Toby has like windows that can slide, but neither in the model show or CG they really bring that up.
No.
Same with Bill and Ben.
I think on the model the windows did slide, at least originally.
But yeah, they did for a little while. But I feel like by season 4, so they just like whatever.
Yeah, I think they glued them in place, but they did originally slide.
I thought they slid in the hit era.
I don't remember the hit era, so I can't comment.
I have a question regarding where the rule of where the faces go.
Is it unanswerable?
Where do they go on something like this, where the front has like a door?
I mean, it's probably the Henrietta thing.
It just goes there, like it can't.
Yeah, it's gonna go in the corridor.
It goes on that little It goes on that little arch bit above the door,
or under it, or under it.
That's
or
the
under
tongue.
it. That's the tongue.
Maybe the face goes below it on that like little beam buffer thing. I don't know what that is. Like where the letter A is.
That's the coupling.
No, where like the letter A is, that
mouth.
like beam thing.
Oh,
That's where the face goes. It's just
So you know where the face goes? The face
down
goes on one little circle of the coupler.
Yeah.
Just on one of these.
Here's another question.
Right there. That's the face.
Where the faces on the flatbeds and bolsters go?
Nowhere. They never had them.
That's a good question.
It's like that, the people that made that like diesel brake van in trains that has like the face. I think that's like the thinnest face that anyone's like made. That's like still within like the conceivable realms of like rationality in terms of like a Thomas face and where it can fit and where it can and can't go.
The narrow gauge brake van, you mean?
No, the standard gauge diesel brake van thing.
Oh,
the brake tender. The brake tender.
Yeah, the brake tender. That's it. Sorry.
That was a fun story.
Yeah, I like that. Shane, you wrote that, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember I was going to do another story for Daisy. I was like, "Oh, Bachman's going to announce Daisy next year," and then it didn't. And I was like, "I'm not going to do this anymore." And then like they announced like 6 months later. I was like,
"Where's your my screen?"
Do you guys know?
I don't know, Jay. It hasn't been working for me for a little while.
The show Rosie and Jim. Did any of you ever?
Oh yeah.
See?
Oh god. That's
it looks like it'll have its face like that.
Oh no.
That's
No, this isn't canon. No, this isn't.
No,
canon.
wait, isn't there some annual or something that does them like this? Or am I crazy?
No, I think you're right.
How would it work?
Yeah, there is. It's some magazine story. I know exactly.
I was trying to find that picture. I was just trying to find that picture. There is actually one.
I was like, wait a minute.
I couldn't find it.
Like.
Yeah, it was like I know exactly what story it was.
Give it buck teeth and a bear nose. And by bear I mean from the books, not an actual.
Wait, Jacob, you have the opportunity to do something with this engine that hasn't been done with any other engine before. Give it ears.
No.
So it can hear.
No, they all have ears. They're just very tiny on the sides of the smoke box.
No, remember that?
What was that? Oh yeah, oh god.
The ears on the engines, remember that?
Oh yeah, like when there's this 1990s like Thomas magazine, someone asked, "Oh, how do the engines hear?" And the Fat Controller or whoever was like, it was like framed as the Fat Controller answering questions, and he said, "Oh, the engines have ears. They're just very tiny." This is the image I made. I made an image of it.
Can't see them.
What does that even mean?
They're invisible.
I
think in the Railway series and TV series, they say Annie and Clarabelle cannot believe their ears. They have ears.
Hey, can I share something?
Frankie says he has ears too.
Cedric Railway, Stephen, don't make fun of how I say ERs.
Yeah. Thank you, Nemo.
That's how I pictured
This isn't accurate, man. They're so tiny, we can't see them.
I didn't picture them like that. I just pictured I don't think he said. He just said they're very tiny. I just pictured them being like just small.
It's on the sides of the smoke.
No, didn't you have a picture of the Q&A where they said that, Nemo?
I don't think I did. No.
We definitely found one. I think I've seen it.
I fucking hope so.
All right, this is what he would look like in the show.
Thank you.
Looks like Marge Simpson.
Turn this off.
It's
This
Marge.
looks like a Rocco character.
It does. Oh my god! No! Hold on. I'll return to you with my
With a piece of art.
with my hold on. Yeah.
All right.
What about the Cody Full engines? Someone's asked in the chat. What about those?
What about them?
Yeah, what about?
I honestly like the whole idea of them having two faces. Honestly, that's just I have no explanation for it. It's just
In my mind, I'm just like, yeah, it's a dumb idea. Okay, they only have one face.
Exactly.
Moving on.
If I were to ever make like some sort of rendition or like continuation of those stories, I'd only just give them the one face.
Oh,
ever.
on the topic of the,
I've always interpreted this as like they have two faces, but like the rear face is technically a different character. Like it's Coldy, but it's not like this. It doesn't have like the same. It's not thinking the same way as the front.
Yeah.
But for some reason, I always pictured the rear faces being mute, like they couldn't talk. It was always the front face was talking, and like the back face just was there and didn't say anything.
So they're like dead conjoined twins, but one of them is like not developed, right?
You know, I'm gonna say
basically, yeah.
Wait,
it seems he put the faces on the mounted engines on both sides because he wanted to be like, oh well, the engine. If the face was just on the front on the smoke box, like it wouldn't be able to see when it's going down the hill. Yeah. But like the engines, the faces are like a stuck thing. Like we as people have like when we look around, we have two forms of articulation. We can move our eyes around, but we predominantly move our heads around. Engines can't move their heads around; they can only move their eyes about. So their field of view is already very fucking limited. So like, it's like, and it's never been a problem for any of the other engines we've ever mentioned when they're going backwards. Like when Thomas pulls Annie and Clarabelle backwards, or they're shunting and stuff. It's always like implied that when they look around, like if they're looking behind them, they just move their eyes to the left or to the right or up or down or wherever. When in reality, that would just like it'd be horrible. Imagine your face was just permanently locked in place, and all you could do to look around was move your eyes. Imagine how fucking horrifying that would be.
Fuck.
Not only can you not look to your sides, you definitely can't see what's behind you.
In was it Thomas's train? There's like a line where he's all like, "Thomas looks back. How do you look back?"
Yes,
yeah, and in the monastery, he just looks to the side.
Obviously, the faces itself is a weird concept. Like the whole idea that the engines can like look back behind them, I can believe to an extent, but like I won't believe that the engines have two faces. Like I won't believe that. That's not. Ignore it. That's the one rule that I'm just like.
It's very weird.
It's dumb. It's kind of dumb.
Yeah.
Can I go back a second, Nick? You said you imagined that the rear faces they're independent. They're still the same character, but they're kind of independent. They have different thoughts and
yeah.
So basically, in this shot here, I imagine that the engines are just sort of grinning mutely at these people, and you just hear muffled voices coming off in the distance. In response.
Yeah, basically.
Like
maybe they're saying like he's like congratulating Lord Harry, and Lord Harry's talking, but it's the front talking. The back is just like kind of grinning, I guess.
He's just grinning, just looking around vacantly.
No, but maybe like the back and front faces are in sync. So maybe he's like telling a secret about the guy in the orange using his front face.
And it's in stereo.
Yeah.
Guys like hearing it.
But guys,
like,
we know how
you know what I mean? Like maybe the faces are just in sync.
That's what I would have thought. That's what I thought. They were just like in sync, yeah.
We know how the engines look at things like this.
Oh.
Stop.
Right.
Cool.
Actually,
Duke's sneaking around.
Listen, blunt.
When Thomas did this in Journey Beyond Sodor, y'all got really mad and toxic, but they did it in the Railway series. It was a reference. You're ungrateful.
Y'all fans just complain too much.
To be fair to
y'all.
the shows, has it happened since Journey Beyond Sodor?
I don't know. I didn't watch the show.
It's like
Ricky,
it seems to
it's
be
funny
like
you
the
say
one
that,
thing
because
that they were
I don't know.
actually like, no, you can't do this. You can't.
I was going to mention that what Kevin brought up actually.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
Ricky, it's funny you bring it up because I literally had it ready in the tab.
I got the thing ready.
You do? Okay.
Is it loading or is it not working? There we go.
There it is. Oh, Jesus
Right.
Christ.
Y'all are very toxic big users. You say it's okay in the Railway series, but not in.
You guys have a
best
double
film ever.
standard. You guys let Duke the Lost Engine do it, but when Thomas does it, you get very angry.
Y'all toxic fans have to stop.
Y'all,
This is more like it.
What do we think of this? Is this better?
Yeah.
No faces.
I think it's better, to be honest. Yeah, I think this is better. The editing looks terrible, but
okay.
It's a little cursed.
They should have a
Just point
turntable.
at random,
I don't know.
sheets of metal.
They should just be facing around for the shot.
yeah, they should just be the other way.
Yeah.
It should just be
I'm
inside
sure,
the
I'm sure
shed.
they based it on the photograph where they were facing like this. I'm sure that's why they.
I
Yeah.
have thought about if they were to do them in the model series, like would the back face be like the same cast as the front face, or would they be rectangle face is like Boko on the back? Like how would this work? Would they be gray? Would they be purple?
I know how they would do it.
How?
They would probably have like a little. They probably Dave Min would like plant a little turntable like Toby had.
I bet that's what.
It's like that's how they face each other for the
Yeah,
camera.
If they were introducing
CGI,
CGI, you can bet that they don't have back faces.
Yeah.
No, I'm pretty sure I read in an interview somewhere that like if they did bring them to the show, they would have them with both faces. And I remember thinking, why would you do that? That's just gonna confuse the shit out of people.
But here's the thing: they don't need in CGI. They wouldn't need a second face because the driver is an actual character that can like move and be animated. It can be lookinized for the engine. You know what I mean?
What they're supposed to do, anyways. But
What do you guys think about the big Diesels and Toby having faces at each end?
Also,
I don't like that.
I think that's like thinking too deep into it.
No, here's what it was.
Yeah.
Here's what it was. That whole theory stemmed from the fact that the train looks the same on both ends, and in certain illustrations, since there's only one illustration per page, you don't want some image where the train's like faceless. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Wait.
Found him in the
Yeah,
shot. Even though
I was
technically
thinking
it's
about
reversal
that.
what it was in the original shot.
thing. It's just a draw.
Is this about Boko?
I was gonna
it's definitely
say,
about
right,
Boko.
if I could go
Let's
first,
see.
if I could go first, shut up. I was gonna say,
Make sure we're all really respectful. Nick told us at the very beginning of the stream. Make sure you're all
breaking
really
the rule.
respectful
You're
to
breaking
each
rule
other,
number 3.
and you
You're
don't
breaking rule
talk
number
over
3.
people.
No
And
talking over other people.
he was really keen to make sure you don't talk over
Breaking
people
rule
when
number
they're just
3.
about to make a really big important
Anyways, I was gonna
point
say,
that they were going
Right.
to talk about.
You're right.
Because, like, that would really piss off a lot of people. If someone was trying to make a point, that they really were trying to get across,
I'm gonna
Nick
kill
made
you.
it very, very clear to
I'm gonna
us
kill you.
that we weren't allowed to do this. Like if someone was
He's
trying to
breaking
get
rule
a
number
point
3.
across,
Nick, can you ban him,
something that
please?
they were
Please.
something that they were trying to talk about, like if it was very important to them and very dear to them, like they just weren't allowed to talk over other people. It's like a thing he mentioned. You guys know what I mean, right? Like that's like a thing he mentioned.
Wylie,
Yes, Nick.
Jacob would like to say something.
Who's Jacob?
Jacob's holding the
Oh.
feather now.
I'm holding the feather. All right. Anyways, as I was
Yeah, so
saying,
just make sure you don't do that.
I muted Wylie. Go ahead.
Wylie, please.
I was gonna say it legitimately wouldn't matter if the engines had front or back faces in CGI, because they would just do that thing they do where they quote look back where like it looks like they're looking behind them, and they would quote see. You know what I mean? Like when Percy like puffs up behind Thomas and Thomas looks back, even though they're not facing the same direction, Thomas can see him. You know what I mean? Like they would just use that. They would just break that rule. So yeah, Coldy would be looking behind him, even though his eyes cannot see back there. They would just do that.
Yeah, you're right.
What I think they would do is just scrap the front face and be like, "Ooh, quirky! These engines are different. Look, it's not Thomas. He has a face on his back. Buy the toy. It's not Thomas."
If you like, basically, what's her face from
Ricky.
Bringing Down Sodor, be like
It'd
that.
be like what do you call it? Lexi.
They already did that with Lexi.
Yeah.
Lexi,
Yeah, exactly. It'd be
her.
Like I'm sure they'd be like, "Ooh, look at this new concept. The train is the face on the other side. Wow, look at this standout toy. Buy this."
You're right. They probably would do that.
All right, Wylie, you can speak now.
He muted himself.
Wow. You know what? That's rude. He's breaking rule number 2. He's breaking rule number 2 now.
No, it's okay.
I'm just breaking the rules.
Oh, damn it. Wylie took it down before I could screenshot it. Oh, damn it.
God damn it!
Oh, there we go.
There it is. There it is.
All right, we're good.
You got
We're
it.
good.
That was so rude of you.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, at least he wasn't interrupting
What
me.
are we looking at here? What's going on here?
I just want to
That's
point out like the
Bobo.
way Boko looks here.
It's Bobo.
You look sad.
He looks very sad.
I can't wait to go back on the stream and watch that over. That's gonna be fucking brilliant. Oh, sorry. Anyways, yes, Boko looks sad. You're right.
He's like,
I have a question.
What's that?
So, Daisy, we're all in agreement that like the big diesels, especially, just have one face at one end, right?
Yeah.
That's how it is.
Yeah.
So the Farquhar branch line does not have a turntable. Does that mean Daisy travels one direction, like
Yes.
backwards?
Yeah.
It does, yeah.
Fuck
That's
it.
I mean, she's designed to do that.
Why would Daisy listen to One Direction? That's fucking stupid.
She
One
likes boy
Direction
bands,
are a
okay?
terrible band, right? We
a very
don't
good
talk about
point.
One Direction. We don't know why they were approved.
Do they ever like? Do they follow that rule in the books, like in the Chris books, especially?
Wait, no, Chris
Well,
books,
With
with
the
I don't know if
books, they
Daisy-
always just turn the engines around, depending. Like when, like it's like a thing when Thomas does Thomas goes to breakfast or whatever it is, comes to
Yeah.
breakfast. Don't judge me on my lack of title knowledge, but like when someone comes to breakfast, like the orientation that he seems to be facing when he makes it look like all the engines are facing like northways, so that when Thomas leaves the back end of the shed, he is front facing and going into the into the house. But in literally every other story, he and Percy and Toby and Mavis and Daisy are always facing the other way round. So in this one case, all the engines were turned around to face the houses, and it just so happened that Thomas made up some bullshit or thought up some bullshit and was like, "Oh, I can drive myself," and drove himself into the house. Just conveniently when he and all of his friends were turned around facing the houses. Now, I think that's a conspiracy theory, if you ask me. I honestly think that was a setup.
Can I
What?
go back a second?
Oh,
You know, you asked about the Chris books, right?
Yeah.
And we were talking about Boko before. They definitely do put face on both sides. I can tell you how you can tell. Boko is not entirely like symmetrical. He's got like a clear front and back, the exhaust vents, and like there's like an exhaust, like a radiated exhaust vent. And I've got the shots up. If I can, I can't really flick through them, but I've got the shots up. You see face on both sides. Like there's one with it on his front and then one with it on his rear, and the exhaust.
Wait, can you share your screen?
yeah, can you show them?
Yeah, give me a second.
Yeah, it should be an option at the bottom.
Well, they
Wait,
definitely do picture him with faces on both ends. Same with Toby.
Yeah, there is a shot where they show Toby's face on the.
But I think it's just for ease of illustration rather than actually implying he has two faces.
yeah.
Oh my God, Nemo, you're right. The exhaust
And
pipes
here's the
on.
thing.
Fuck.
Here's the thing with the interesting thing is if Toby, you definitely it's a Wilbur book, so it doesn't really have the same sort of impact.
Look how tiny
You
Boko
definitely-
is.
He's a little.
Wow, it's almost like the dimensions of the orientation and the perspective of all of these drawings are terrible.
No. Go back to the one. Go back to the other
Look
one.
at the way Gordon looks. He's like,
Which one?
Yeah, go back to the second one.
This one.
The other one.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one.
Why the hell is Bear like bigger than them? Even though
That's not
he's
fair,
farther
that's just
away?
a work-
That's not there.
That's not there.
It's just a
Oh.
blue
Random
diesel. Sorry, all
sorry,
mainland
sorry.
diesels like look
I
Are
don't-
you
alike.
even a real fan? Oh my
I'm not a real
God.
fan. I didn't remember this very classic.
Sorry, we didn't
character.
brush up on our railway series knowledge beforehand.
This begs the question though, like, so if they show Boko's face at both ends, he has the full yellow front on both ends. How does the other version, where it's like halfway, come into
Maybe
play?
one's full yellow and one's half yellow. Facts.
But here they show both ends, and it's full yellow on both ends.
I think
Wait,
the Edwards
I've got
like
the
drew
answer.
Boko's face inconsistent because like in one like the eyes are above the yellow lining, but I think the yellow lining's like in the same spot.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it's just an illustrating error that sometimes it
Yeah.
could half his face, sometimes it didn't.
I
was really just
personally like him with
based
the eyes
on
above the
spot.
yellow. I think that's kind of
Yeah.
neat.
Jacob is cancelled. Jacob, you've been cancelled.
What did I do?
You didn't know that
Cancelled.
wasn't there. You are not a true fan.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not a real
Jacob,
fan.
Wylie.
What's up?
Big
I
user
found
is as
a-
big user does.
I found a way to illustrate your knowledge of towards the names of Thomas stories, since you don't seem to remember them very well, right?
Hang on, I'm okay. Yes.
Think I found a good visual illustration.
Okay.
If it loads, there we go.
Oh, good. Yes.
Yeah, we got breakfast time for Thomas. Trouble on the tracks.
Oh my God.
We got
Look at that
Thomas
guy.
Goes
Look at that
Crash.
Thomas goes crash.
Yeah, go back.
That's my favorite story.
Go back to the second one. Go back to the middle one.
Wait, go back one,
It's,
Shane. Go back one.
Patrick. It's
Look at how they're like
Patrick
pointing
Kirchhoff.
at him
Oh
and
my
not moving
goodness.
out of the way. They're just pointing at him.
Why have all the family got the same faces?
They're like, hey,
They're
look
not
at
even
that.
getting up.
Guys,
They're like,
oh,
shit.
No. It doesn't look like Thomas is even approaching him. It looks like he's invited. He's at the table with them.
Looks like they cut a hole in the
Yeah.
window for his face to come through. They could shove eggs down his throat.
Why is Thomas got like a chin?
No, Ricky. The girl looks like she's holding the gun.
Why does
trying to shoot him.
Thomas
Sure,
look
they
like
can
he's
go
got like
away.
a chin piece?
No,
That's
we gotta
a
Photoshop
neck
this.
saddle.
Wait, Jacob, you gotta Photoshop this to put a gun in the girl's hand. Like she's waving the gun at Tom. It's like, get out of my house.
Because like
Thomas
the
is even looking
black
at
part,
Thomas is even looking at her, so you can like isolate it so it's just Thomas and the girl with the
Like
gun.
the trigger finger. She's ready to go.
He's already just looking directly at her, like she's the threat.
wow, look at these goody two shoes having breakfast just before 8.
Yeah, wow. What's wrong with
Oh no, the fucking Patrick second Doctor and Jodie Whittaker.
Why is
Wait,
Owen Bell
Thomas,
drawn?
wait.
Yeah,
Also,
where's
no, look at this.
He looks
What
mental
did he
here.
bust
What's
through the
going
shower? Did he bust through the shower? What is that?
Did you go through the entire house?
What the fuck? How did the fucking teapot land inside the plank without completely shattering?
Why is he blushing?
Because he's in
Like,
there.
why-
Why was
He
the
went through the
house made
shower.
out of wooden nails? Why was it made like a tree house?
It's a ramshackle house.
Why is his
obviously.
cab longer than his tanks?
That house probably deserved to get destroyed.
What happened to his funnel?
Yeah, the whole
Why
proportion
has his
is
funnel got a
busted.
mouth?
His proportions are just so fucked.
His funnel is actually the sorting hat.
Yeah.
Sorting hat.
He's like, oh my goodness!
Is that the lamp?
Nemo,
Is
how
the
does
genie gonna come out of there?
This illustration's
Demo.
fine
Yeah.
for the CGI
how
era.
does Thomas Goes Crash compare with Thomas Goes in Tunnel?
I think it's a bit. I was gonna point this out. I love how the titles just evolve. I'm sure the fourth book would just be like train hit thing or train go smash or something.
Train
guys,
hit
guys,
Thomas comes
to
breakfast time for
you're forgetting the best title of them all.
Oh,
Thomas Goes How Size Is He?
That's my personal
Right.
favorite, but that's I don't know if everyone can agree on that.
all right.
Size Is He?
Give chat. Give us some new questions to answer. Give us something new.
Maybe something missing coach related so that we're not false advertising and lose monetary.
Topic. I think that train left the station 2.5 hours
lost
ago.
money.
Yeah.
Nick,
Wait,
did
so
you
you're
honestly expect us to talk about that for like 20,
No, of
3
course not.
hours?
I
What
expected
did
us
you
to start
want
with
this to
that
be?
and then just let the conversation go wherever it goes. And it's very much
Thoughts on season 12?
season 12 is like the worst model season.
It sucks.
Yeah.
The sets are at their worst.
I wish
Yeah,
me and Jacob have been talking a lot recently about how we could possibly do animation for the like how could we animate the faces on Thomas so
Just
that
do
they
stop
blend
motion.
well with like the live action sequence. Exactly, yeah, and we thought immediately think of stop motion stuff. And we thought if they had gone for that sort of approach, if they had gone for a more stylized approach to the faces rather than just tacking on some CGI face recreations of tacky recreations of the original face cast. If they'd actually gone for some sort of like stop motion effect and tried to match the lighting and the sort of the quality of the scene properly, then they really could have actually even though the stories would have been terrible, at least the look of it would have been something unique to look at. But no, they just no, they didn't care.
Well, because season 12 was incredibly rushed. I like the idea a lot. I really do. Like,
Yeah,
the
it was a
model
good
plays
idea in
with the
theory. It was,
CGI element. I think
It was
that's
a
a
way to
really
get the
cool
best
idea.
of both worlds, but we got the worst of both worlds.
Well, yeah, the end result wasn't very good. It's aged terribly. If you watch
Yeah.
the
Oh.
full episode now, it looks awful, just awful. But
Ricky, this is
I'm
Ricky,
pulling-
this is
I'm
a good
pulling
one
up
for
some
you.
images.
What? What's
There's
that?
one
What?
that's asking that's like, what's the worst model? Like, I guess what's the worst prop?
The worst prop? Let me think about
Yeah.
that.
Flora,
Yeah, Flora's
there's
pretty
Lifestyle
bad.
James.
Billy.
The warp scale James was pretty bad.
oh yeah,
Um,
you know what? I think that's actually my answer.
I
No, but wait.
I-
But there's
I
an
think-
easy answer to this. There's a very easy answer we can all agree on to this. You ready? The season 5 on narrow gauge trains.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You're about to stir some emotions in the chat there.
Okay, fine.
I don't like them that much, but I don't think they're the worst.
Jeremy,
Charlie and Renes look
worst.
good. Peter
Jeremy.
and Duncan look okay. Peter, Sam though, wow.
Yeah.
No. I think Wylie's on the money with Jeremy.
Yeah.
Well,
It's
I just
either Jeremy or the Worf scale James. I don't know how they could botch a character more than they botched the Worf scale James. I know people like but it looks good. It looks like James. Oh, I remember this because I was born in 2005. It's like, yeah, but it sucks. It doesn't look like the James prop. It looks like a caricature. It just doesn't look good at all.
What are your thoughts on calling all engines? I don't have any because I was so excited for it and I had so many expectations. I gave up. I was so underwhelmed. It's horrible.
I watched it once in 2005 and I never watched it again.
I'm never watching that thing again since I was like
I didn't
6.
I didn't hate Colonel Engines. I think Colonel Engines could have been good if they cut out the stupid interactive crap. I could have been. It was a neat idea, and like I like that they brought a lot of like props back for it. Like, it was kind of fun.
I think it was so annoying. It was just so annoyingly boring.
It was nice that we got to see the Daisy prop one last time.
Yeah, that was cool. But then there was like that stupid stuff with the nightmare sequences, and then like Diesel 10 was like totally like changed. I was like, oh, what are we doing here?
The bridge collapse looked cool, I guess.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call it. You said it was boring. I wouldn't call Colonel Engines boring, really, because a lot of
I am very much basing this on my expectations of what I wanted when I was like, I think, what did it come out? 2004?
2005,
I was like,
4 or 5, yeah.
Yeah, I was like 5 or 6. And at this point, I was just sort of getting out of it, but I was just sort of like young enough to be still interested in Thomas. And I remember it being advertised as like this new exciting thing. And I think my expectation just completely went out the window. So
I don't think I really had expectations for it. Like, I had seen season 8 at that point. I kind of knew what I was getting into. I was excited to see like, oh, Diesel 10's back. That would be kind of neat. But like, I don't know. It was just kind of like more of the same of season 8, in all honesty, with some cool sequences like the bridge.
It was one of the things where I think I saw Diesel 10. I saw Diesel 10 in the picture, and I was like, "Holy crap!" And then I saw it. I'm like, "Oh."
Yeah.
Worst season 5 episode.
That's a hard one. I don't like to play favorites with my children.
Isn't Rusty in the Boulder like one of the worst?
No, you're wrong.
Shut your mouth.
That was such a good idea.
It was a mess. It was a complete mess, but it was an entertaining mess.
Actually, it is, yeah. In terms of entertainment, that was definitely one of the best.
Bar was alright. Bar was.
I gotta look at the list of episodes.
I gotta look at the list. Yeah, I gotta look at the list to be able to.
Just some crazy crash.
The worst one, all right.
No, it was bad. Make someone happy. That was Make Someone Happy was boring.
Oh, you know what? Make someone happy
was kind of boring.
You know, I think I agree with that one. Make Someone Happy was just things happening in the episode. There wasn't really a plot to it.
Yeah, that was kind of boring.
What about Gordon and the Gremlin?
I like that one. That was actually fun.
It wasn't one of the better ones, but it wasn't the worst.
No.
No, unpopular opinion. I didn't find Snow that interesting.
Oh, get out!
I like Snow.
Snow.
That one's awesome.
I feel like Snow has the narrow gauge Rusty in it, so it's good.
Snow's a really good episode.
Jacob's gonna get very angry at me. I never liked your Top Hats Holiday.
You didn't like the Top Hats Holiday?
I never really liked it.
That was a decent one.
Hilarious.
I'm gonna kill you.
It was about like the figures. It wasn't about like the choo-choo trains. That's why I wasn't good. Sorry.
Yeah.
Did you like Lady Hat's birthday party?
Not really. Sorry.
Oh my god!
No, but that was better because
Ricky,
George in it.
You better watch what you say because I know where you live.
You do, but
you can't go see Ricky right now.
Why don't you disclose where Ricky lives in the chat for us, Jacob? I'm sure we'd all like to
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
He lives in Corona Land.
That's true. That's actually true.
He lives at longitude 0, latitude 0. Off you go,
someone in the chat's worst season 4 episode.
We had this question in the last stream. There really isn't like a definite answer for this one. Maybe like
can I just say, whoever asked the worst season 5 episode, Amaze, your fucking profile picture, the Oliver with like legs and the arms like holding a gun. That is the best fucking thing I've ever seen, and I wish we had more people like you. Thank you.
You gotta make the legs buffer though.
Yeah, and the arms. Yeah.
No, not the arms. He's skipping weights. He's skipping weights.
I love it.
I want to see someone do this with like the Buckman or the Hornby Oliver. Just put it on some like legs and holding a gun, with like an angry face on it.
What's a good Star Wars figure we can like use the arms and legs from?
You got a lot of options.
Barbie, take the Barbie figures. Give him Barbie legs.
Yeah, no, a Barbie one would be just so long.
Great discovery.
Going back to the season 4 question. On the stream last time, the question was, what was the worst narrow gauge episode of season 4?
Oh, that's
what do you guys think of that one?
That's hard. I could probably pick it out.
My answer was
Rusty Chaleski. Sorry.
Hey.
Maybe. I mean, I love that episode for the visuals, but the story was kind of weak.
The visuals were. I get where you're coming from. I get why people like that one, but for me personally,
yeah, Home at Last maybe.
I'm gonna say Passengers and Polish.
Yeah, that one too. Like Home at Last and Passengers and Polish. I think those are sort of similar. I personally like.
I can't hate Home at Last because it was on Thompson's special letter VHS.
For me, it is the make.
I know, I love those episodes. Like personally, I love them, but like objectively, like they're all good.
Jacob, that's three strikes. He's hit the 3-strike formula. He's made the same joke 3 times.
I'm
3
sorry.
strikes and you're out. That's how Sharon Miller wants it. Thank audience. Can you please tell us if Jacob's chicken burger joke has worked for you the 3rd time? I would like your direct feedback.
The best VHS was. It was Thomas and the Special Letter.
Thomas and the
Special Letter is the best VHS.
That's all the best episode. Special Letter. Toad
it has my 3 favorite episodes of the entire show: Blowout, Steamroller, and Toad Stands By. Those are the 3 best episodes of the show right there.
Blowout.
That's what I call it. I call it Blowout.
That's the episode. The train had a blown out tire.
It was certainly a blowout. It was the way to end the video. Nothing ever topped it. It was the blowout of the franchise.
You're right. You're right.
And then he got blown. And he got blown to Drain Manor.
You're right. He's about to have another blowout.
He's gonna have a blowout. The black tack on his face gives, and his face falls on the floor, and then he runs over it.
That's true.
Is Middle Engine the worst episode of the classic series? Really?
No, I don't think so. You can go a lot worse than Middle Engine.
Season 6 has a lot of shit episodes.
I don't consider Season 6 part of the classic series. It's not Brett Allcroft. It's not canon.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But even in Series 6, I think I could find a worse episode than Middle Engine.
Thing. Season 6 is really like there's a
Scary
lot
Jack
of
Frost.
Yeah.
Scary Jack Frost.
For as dumb as Middle Engine was, there were a lot of fun props in that episode, and like it was kind of fun seeing Percy go on the lift thing.
Yeah, I liked that. I thought that was kind of unique.
And then when Alec Baldwin's like, "I'll have to report this. It's a top of man."
I think someone earlier asked like, what was like the intention of the jet engine? Like, what was it for? Why did they build it in a way that it could be activated
to sell toys?
To sell a toy, Wylie.
You're right.
There you go. To sell a toy.
I want to sell some toys.
We're just going to quote the Transformers wiki: to sell toys.
You know, in that episode's defense, that episode's fucking fun.
It was
a funny episode. It was a funny episode
for the most part.
I love the part when Birdie's like at the crossing and like Thomas just flies by and then it just shows like that close up of his face and he's just like smiling. He's like,
yeah, that was funny.
Never mind.
That's the thing. It's like
season 6 is what like. At the very least, modern Thomas should aspire to be like. Like there's no way it's going to be as edgy as Series 5 or have that sort of classic vibe that Series 4 does. Series 6 is like a decent like neutral ground that like the modern Thomas stuff should sort of be like. You know, like that seems like a neutral ground for Thomas to pleasantly survive, and where it's like kind of like quirky humor and it's still kind of about trains, but it's not going to be breaking any. Fucking tropes anytime soon.
Yeah,
I'm kind of on the fence because I feel like season 6 waters down qualities from season 5 that made it like interesting to a slightly older audience. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like as we were getting older, you know, we're watching the newer episodes, and like it almost felt like season 5 was like growing up with us a little bit. Then you get the Magic Road, season 6 just like a nosedive in the opposite direction.
It was opposite. Yeah, it was the opposite way.
The thing with season 6
sure.
is it's not absolutely horrendous, but I see it's the start of like the stuff that would come later on. Like that's why it
Definitely the start of something.
Yep.
That's the first season they brought outside writers in, and boy did it show.
Yeah, it really fucking did.
Gordon pulls the express. Percy
takes the mail. All the engines like to be useful. Okay, how many? That was the start of every episode for the next 20 years.
Yep. Yep. Unfortunately,
There are stories about trains written by people who don't know what trains are.
Yeah,
Yep.
but they didn't even know who the characters were, so they just relied on the main cast a lot.
That's why we never saw like Boko or Daisy again, because they didn't even know to write them.
Yeah, they didn't even know who they were. Like, they had no idea.
There wasn't an agenda. It was just like, what's this? This is Thomas. This is Gordon James. Okay, bye.
Like, they you know, there's a large cast. Like, they were trying to wrap their head around the main, like, 7, 8. Never mind get into the other characters.
The joke is like they had so many props and resources they could use, and like the writers had no idea, so they never got utilized.
And they still couldn't get them bloody right.
Meanwhile, Dave Min at least knew like what to use and how to have fun with it. But like second you get him out the picture in season 8, none of that got used at all.
Yeah, exactly. He still knew to be like, oh no, we're gonna put Duck in the background, we're gonna put Oliver in the background, we're gonna do this. But then once he was gone, that was it. They're like, who's Percy number 2? We don't need him.
They're like, we don't. If it's not part of the script, it doesn't need to be in the visual at all.
Yeah, exactly.
Rusty's
it was also a conscious effort during that time to streamline the cast because they thought they were going for the lowest common denominator. If one person gets confused, that's a loss in their book. So they're like, okay, we're only going to put the main 7 engines plus Emily in. That's already enough characters. We're not going to confuse anyone by putting 2 small green engines in or this or whatever. That's it.
Right. Here's a genuinely interesting, because we can sort of argue and sort of see why they made changes to the show like after season 6, after Magic Railroad. But here's one thing that always confused me. Why did they think changing the theme for the show was a good idea? Why did they, like, I can get they wanted to make a new spin on things, but why did they think something as iconic as the Thomas the Tank Engine intro, which even by at that point was pretty damn iconic, why did they think changing that was such a good idea?
They didn't care. They just wanted to sell toys to a common denominator.
But like, the Thomas theme was an extremely marketable thing back then. Like, it was
think
still
it's to do with the fact they didn't want to pay Mike and Junior anymore.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's entirely to do with Mike and Junior. It's not to do with like this. Like, we want a new theme, and then they got rid of them. No, the whole whatever the legal issue was between Mike and Junior and them. That happened, and then they were like, okay, we're out of composers.
Like, they're like, there's no way in hell we're paying these guys to use their music when they're not even working on the show anymore. Like, we're done. New theme.
Yeah, but isn't it like this? Wouldn't it have been like a similar thing to like how they still have to credit Britt Allcroft for the show? Like,
I'm sure Britt has some crazy contract that was like signed by the devil.
Crazy contract where they still have to credit her today. Like, they don't have to credit Mike and Junior for
the music. The music is like. It's like the same thing with like the TCC on our behalf. Like, we made that for the show. Like, we made that for Thomas, for them to use, and they could use that however they want. Like, once arguably, if Mike and Junior have written the music for Thomas, that's
no,
it.
but their contract said they still need to be like get royalty. Like, you know what I mean? There's a different contract. Like, Mike and Junior's contract was definitely like, oh, we'll write you the songs and we can use them, but we still own the rights to the songs because we wrote them.
Even so, the fact that they changed it to be so completely different, like, even if they didn't use the original recording, fair enough. But like, because they've used the like when they because in The Adventure Begins they've reused like bits and ditties from like the original music. But
I think that
I imagine they haven't had to pay Mike and Junior royalties
budget for that one special.
They'd rather pay y'all like.
I think they did. I think that's why they only did it once.
To the music, they just like they choose not to use it.
Wait, what were you saying, Jake?
I don't know about that.
He's like, well, they own all the rights to it. He's like, well,
I don't know.
Entertainment the rights to our music.
Because no. I think they do own the rights to the music, but I think if they use it, they have to credit the creator. Like, I think they do own the rights to it.
Even so, like, whether or not they want to, like, whether or not they were willing to pay the rights to the music or not, because they could have very easily just have gone like, okay, well, we want to still use the Thomas theme because it's so iconic, but we'll just pay to, like, they probably were like, oh, we want to pay. If Mike did and Junior did have the rights to it, you'd think they'd at least like be like, oh, we'll pay you like a gazillion dollars, like Disney will with George Lucas, to buy the rights to the theme off you, so we can still use it for our show. Because like, why would who decided? Yes, we need to change the theme because the theme is definitely something that because I can imagine, you can understand why they change all the other aspects to an extent, because they're like trying to pussify it for like 3-year-olds.
Well, that's what they were trying to do.
The theme isn't exactly something that's like the children would have loved the fucking theme song. Like, that's the one thing I don't understand why they were like they seemingly decided to change out of the blue, like willingly.
They also had this idea. They also had this like bogus idea that like they were making it for PBS, right? And you have to understand how these people think. They're not like, oh, Thomas has been around in America for 20 years. They're like, it was Shining Time Station. Thomas has never been on the air in the United States. They won't know the theme. We have to create a whole new theme for the first time Thomas the Tank Engine is ever on TV in the United States.
I guess Shining Time probably had a lot to do with that. So basically, it was all your guys' fault. Go fuck yourself.
No, it was. It was. If you read the SAF interview with Sam Barlow, the script editor, he's like, we totally changed the entire show for the Americans. Like, we totally did it for the American audience.
If you guys weren't such fucking idiots.
And the sad part is that it worked. That's the sad part. It completely worked.
It depends how you define
a
it.
lot of money to hit Arrow.
No, it did what they wanted. It got Thomas very popular here, and it made them a lot of money.
It made a lot of money, yeah.
The audience.
And that's just what Americans
did it increase
think Thomas
the audience? Because Thomas was like an iconic thing, like beforehand. Like, did it, like in terms of like viewers and numbers, did it make Thomas more popular?
Yeah, it made it like 20 million times more popular in America.
Fair enough.
It's true. It's very true.
Yeah.
The Thomas sections in the stores
most profitable during this
to be
era.
fair, if the television series carried on like the classic series the way it did with David Mitton, I mean, it probably would have ended very quickly.
Definitely.
But at least it would have ended, you know.
It would have ended on a high note. You know, we wouldn't have like 20 years of like terrible content.
Exactly.
Unfortunately.
There you go. And there you go. I think we've been live for 3 hours now, so
Yeah.
Yeah, we cut it off the live stream at 3 hours last time. Maybe we should wrap it up.
yeah, I need I have work in 6 hours.
I'm a little burned out myself. Wait,
Sounds good.
think we should end it on like one last good question, or just pop it now?
Do you say you're gonna burn down a house?
Wow.
Is the house? Would the house be sentient? Like, would it have a face? And where would the
Was
face
the
be?
Station Master's house sentient?
Someone asked this question earlier. Would like Knapford Station, could that be sentient?
Yes.
My
I
answer
don't
to
think
that
so.
is Owen is a building and that's sentient. So like,
Okay,
I think
but
they know what
if
they're
we're
doing with
limiting
Owen.
it to just the railway series, though, like, are there any buildings in the railway series that are sentient?
I don't think so.
Then
I
we
don't
just
wanna
let the
be
TV, then let the TV series do its own stupid fucking thing for all I care. They've pushed the rules so much that honestly they can just do whatever at this point, and I think we all agree that we just don't give a shit at what they do anymore.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, basically.
I don't think any of us are really paying attention to what they do anymore anyway.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like, they make, like, cranes, I guess, are fine, but like they are mega structures. But
I made it a point to like not like address like the new Abomination coloring book drawings on Twitter. My guide to enjoying Thomas is just not acknowledging that the show exists anymore.
Don't worry, Jacob. I'm sure
everyone,
they'll
if you're
be
listening to this
possessed.
and your only interests are Thomas the Tank Engine and sort of trains, please do better. Please go out there and find some more general
Well,
interests.
it's not that. It's just like I don't think you need to watch every single episode of the show and wake up at 1 a.m. to watch like the Italian releases of the episodes.
Guys,
you
will do so much better with your life if you stem your interests beyond the realm of Thomas the Tank Engine.
Yeah, you know, get a hobby. You know, like, you know, get invested in what's a decaying fandom? Star Wars.
Yeah, at this point it is.
Actually, don't even bother investing in a fandom of some other of some other thing. Don't bother. Trains are a good like stemming point for if you're interested in Thomas, but like it does help if you have like you can stem into like something a bit more general, like I don't know, music or acting or filmmaking. Filmmaking is usually a good one. Because there's so many. This is something Jake I talked about in a recent live stream, and I'll try to keep it brief. But there's so many people on YouTube now that are like content creators because of like people like Leo Kim Video and stuff like that, and they take inspiration from the original Thomas and the Model series. There's so many people now interested in filmmaking and practical filmmaking. So get out there, guys, and get
just
busy.
Blow all your finances on a game you're dreaming of, and just see where that goes.
Yeah, and become a gamer,
and hide the hippo wagon somewhere.
Go spend £1,000 on a new PC, £1,000 on a decent VR headset, and then £100 on Half-Life Alyx. There you go. Enjoy some games, you gamers.
And we'll put the crane somewhere.
Maybe the next generation of Thomas's survival is by making a super real life accurate video game, Railway Series accurate game of Thomas and his friends on the island of Sodor.
Let's just make Thomas and Friends GTA Great Train Adventure.
That sounds amazing. That sounds amazing. Let's do that.
You can hijack the train, just go all over Sodor.
Oh my god, Alex Jones is here.
Top it off with a season 5 aesthetic.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I would do. You have no idea how much I would pay for like a sandbox game like GTA. That it's just like the entire.
It's just like
I'm not talking about trains. Where trains is just like some like old. I mean, like trains looks really good, but like I mean, like a game you can play. Like
how difficult would it be to mod, either take trains and mod it, or like Railworks or something, or just take the island of Sodor and recreate it geographically? Because it's like, what, 60 miles across, 60 miles north?
You'd be better off just doing it from scratch.
That's like doable with modern computers, right?
Wylie,
you'd be better off doing it from scratch in like Unity or Unreal Engine or some shit.
I was gonna say an Unreal Engine or something, or even Unity. You could probably at least make like a
Unity's a lot easier.
Yeah.
Well, basically,
like even if it was just like a flat land of like Sodor, just as like as a ground so you could grasp it. Because they're doing the Titanic Honor and Glory guys are doing the Titanic, and I think that thing is going to, when that comes out, that's going to be fucking fun to play around with and look at.
Oh boy,
there's so much care and attention that's gone into that. Sorry, I mean the Olympic redisguised as the Titanic.
Oh boy, we can die on the Titanic every day.
All right, guys. I have one final image I want to show that I want to end this on.
Oh boy!
I just found it on Twitter, and I'm laughing my ass off.
Let's see it. What a profound image.
And we are done.
Oh boy! Hey, Wylie! Hey!
Bruh.
Is it over?
It's over. Alrighty.
Are we still live?
So
I'll feed her. Say bye.
Jacob sucks. Jacob sucks balls.